Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Our Life Beginnings and Always. This is the final episode. Can y'all believe it? I can't. Alright, let's see how this all ends up for our little characters. Let's get started. Alright, we're moving to the next step. Moths bounced against your window, attracted by the light of your room, a siren call in the slowly darkening sky. Just as the day was coming to an end, so too would summer. Liz would be moving back into the dorms before long. Luckily, Leigh had been able to come stay for a short trip before her own new journey began. She'd officially been accepted to her first choice college a few weeks ago. This was her last chance to see you all in person for... You flicked through the plans for the next few months, realizing that you didn't even know when you'd have the opportunity for everyone to be in the same place again. It was hard to think that you'd likely be seeing even less of your cousin going forward, but you were delighted that she was pursuing her dreams. While you were still with each other, your family was going to have dinner together. As ever, the Holdens were tagging along too. Chinese restaurant, absolutely. It was somewhere your family had always enjoyed going ever since you and Liz were tiny. The long-standing connection made it a fitting location for a final meal out before Liz and Leigh set off again. Technically, you were getting ready to go out, though your mind was only half on the task. It was a pleasantly warm evening, the kind that epitomized the vacation feeling, and you were in no mood to spoil it by rushing around. While idly gazing at your room, you spotted a small cluster of unopened envelopes that must have been left for you by a parent earlier. You headed over to the table to flick through for anything of interest. As a child, any correspondence felt exciting due to its rarity. You recognized now that most of it was mundane, but you were checking any mail you got more regularly as of late. There was something you were expecting. You stopped at a crisp white envelope, the logo proudly proclaiming the sender, a school you'd applied to. Okay, we got nerves, so we're going to take a deep breath. This next step would take nerve. You closed your eyes as you breathed deep, the air slipping through your lips as you opened your eyes once more. You pulled apart the glued flap on the front of the envelope and extracted the letter. Your eyes darted over the message, rushing past the pleasantries to get to the heart of the matter. The blood pounding in your ears deafened you to the world outside that was contained within these letters. Your heart skidded to a halt as you read your verdict. You'd been accepted! Woohoo! Bouncing on the balls of your feet, you pressed the letter to your chest as your excitement bubbled over. Had to tell your family right away. We're excited. Tell first people you saw. You tore down the stairs, your feet barely touching the ground as you leapt from one step to the next. Your arrival, which compensated for excessive speed by creating a riot of noise, caught Mom's attention. Someone's hungry. Her eyes were twinkling, amused as she let you catch your breath. So what's the rush for? I got into college! Mom whooped, holding out a hand for a high five. Nice, Mandy. The commotion had summoned the other women from the various corners of the house. Liz looked up from her book, grinning as Leigh hurried over. Ma swept in from the side, wrapping an arm around your shoulders and squeezing you close. That's wonderful, sweetie. Hey, let me in on the hug. She wrapped your arms around you both without waiting for an invitation. Liz, her book neatly abandoned on the floor, tapped her hands in applause as she walked up to you. Good job, Mandy. Leigh didn't hide her excitement, openly jumping for joy as she treated you to thunderous applause. It's amazing. You're going to be amazing. That's nice, but you shouldn't just stand there. Yeah, there's room for everyone. Your moms opened up the hug, both keeping an arm around you, as they held out another to invite Liz and Leigh in. Giggling, Leigh dove into the hug. Liz rolled her eyes but allowed herself to be beckoned into the group hug. Your mom squeezed everyone together tightly. Mom's long hair brushed against your face as she turned to check the clock. We can take this party on the road. We've got to head out for dinner soon. Nodding, you were aware that your attempts to finish getting ready had been cast aside in favor of congratulating you. I have to do a couple more things first. Won't take long. You hurried back upstairs. Though getting ready to go out was the issue at hand, you couldn't stop your thoughts from drifting back to the future. We have to go back to the future. Your mind was buzzing over the news you'd received and everything that would soon unfurl. Everyone piled into the car. While it was marked as being suitable to hold 5 people, in practice it made for a very tight fit. Your moms sitting in the front were fine. Listen, it never works out that way. You, Liz, and Leigh were squished into the back, Leigh in the middle, wedged between you and your sister. But Mom was an excellent timekeeper. Thanks to her efforts, you pulled up near the restaurant on time. The process of getting out of the car was slightly easier than squeezing into it, with much less coordination required to release seatbelts than to secure them. You gave Leigh a hand as she clambered out from the middle seat, then headed into the building as a group. A waiter greeted you as you entered. Ma let him know how many of you there would be in total. He went to arrange a table that met your needs. He returned promptly to guide you to your seats. You perched comfortably in your chair, your head held aloft as if buoyed by today's good fortune. Your family settled down around you, all cheerful and looking forward to the evening ahead. Your drinks order had just been taken when the Holdens came through the door. They were pointed in your direction, though with Mom waving an arm in the air it was hardly necessary. Cove and Mr. Holden came to join you at the table. As greetings were being exchanged, Cove took a seat opposite to you. It had been left empty by unspoken acknowledgement that you and Cove would be wanting to sit together. Mr. Holden sat beside him. It's great to see you. Glad you could make it. Hello, everyone. Wouldn't believe how hungry I am. You came to the right place then. There was some laughter, though Liz groaned playfully, shaking her head at Mom's sense of humor. Growing up, she'd have complained, and Mom would have responded by making another comment. Liz had mellowed out over the years, but she still made a show of despairing at Mom's jokes. Her reaction to them had become a joke in its own right. Menus were soon passed around, and a temporary hush fell over the table as everyone read. Didn't last long, punctured by comments about what people had eaten here before, and light chatter about what people were considering tonight. Once the waiter had disappeared with your orders, Cliff piped up. So I've gotten some good news. Kira's making a trip out here tomorrow. Cove nodded, turning from his father to the rest of the table. Yeah, we talked about it and figured this was a good time for everyone. That's great. Everyone reacted positively to the news, though Ma looked wistful. If only we'd known. Here we are, having a big meal without her. If we'd waited one day, she could have joined us. Mom patted Ma on the back, gently nudging her from the realm of possibilities and what-ifs, and back to the evening that was going so well. Chin up, Leigh and Liz will still be here tomorrow. We'll just have to throw another get-together and keep the fun train chugging along. Not the fun train. Ma smiled warmly, taking Mom's hand in hers. That's true. There's plenty to celebrate right now, but there will be more good news and good times on the horizon. Damn, everybody's got news today. Right, and speaking of, that's not all we've got either. Mr. Holden's eyes were alight as he sat up straight in his chair, face angled towards his son. He barely let a beat go before nudging Cove with his elbow, pushing him to follow up on the announcement. He was the very picture of a proud papa. Cove shied from the limelight, ducking his head down and staring at his lap as he spoke. Well, it's just I've switched over to working full-time instead of only part-time. Plus, I've been looking at apartments. There's a few I can choose from. He flicked his gaze up at everyone around the table, a smile creeping over his face. I'll be pretty busy going forward. Apartments. He was moving. Cove was going to move out of his dad's house. After 10 years, he wasn't going to be your neighbor anymore. Mr. Holden gripped one of Cove's shoulders and gave it a loving shake. His excitement couldn't be contained. Incredible. Cove's actually going to make it to adulthood. It's a miracle. Mr. Holden leaned back in his chair, staring up at the ceiling in mock wonder. I wasn't convinced I'd be able to rear a kid all the way to this point, but thankfully I lucked out and got the best boy a dad could ask for. Dad. Cove blinkered his vision with his hands on the side of his face, temporarily blocking his father from sight. Despite his genuine bashfulness, which left him unable to meet anyone's eyes after all the attention thrust his way, he was happy. Thanks. I was really lucky, too. You're a good dad. Aw, come here. Mr. Holden threw an arm around Cove's neck, pulling him into as close of a hug as the seating allowed. Rubbing his cheek on the top of his son's head while Cove chuckled, accepting the affection with good humor. Ma leaned over and whispered in your ear, her fingertips brushing against your cheeks. Would you like to tell Cove and Mr. Holden what you told us earlier? I'd rather not. No, thank you. Sure. As the spotlight thrust on Cove dimmed, you decided this was as good a time as any to make your own announcement. Can I share some news too? Of course. I got my acceptance letter today. I'll be going to college soon. Mr. Holden gave you a thumbs up. Impressive. You're a good kid. The world's your oyster. Cove grinned at you from across the table. That's amazing. It's incredible. You did it. Congratulations, Mandy. Thanks. No, seriously, this is really, really big, and you deserve it so much. You looked around at the faces of the company here. You'd been on this journey with everyone here for years, seen them falter and grow. They watched you go through the same. Now you were striking out on a new path. Cove was leaving his family home. Liz was heading back to college, while Leigh was starting at hers. You were all heading in different directions, to different destinations, some near, some far. But it wouldn't be long until you were all going your own way. It was bittersweet. I think that's how most people feel at this stage. You turned your head to the side, wistful, not wanting to spoil the evening with your troubles. You were glad that everyone was succeeding, but the idea of splitting up gave you a twinge of regret. These people had been the key pillars in your life. Days ahead without them, no matter how bright and shiny, felt a little empty, like a theme park after closing time. Gotta use the optimism. Especially since they're all good things. It's just, it's changes. New adventures were still ahead, and you could encourage that optimism. Cove brought some attention to himself with a clearing of his throat and a small interjection. I'm gonna stretch my legs while we're waiting for food and everything. Sure thing, bud. The tiny smile, he nodded at his dad, but the lightness to his expression faded when he moved to face you. Wanna come? He was attempting to be subtle, but there was very obviously something on his mind, something he wanted to talk to you about alone. You watched him with concern as you rose from your seat. Yeah, I'll go. Take care. With those parting words, the two of you walked about the place. He was trying to get as far away from everyone else as possible without actually exiting the building. What did you need to say? He hadn't admitted that was what this was about, but he didn't need to. Cove started pulling on the hem of his shirt. He turned his head back to face you, but it was an awkward movement. Well, I wanted to talk to you one-on-one about all this. My work, moving. It was coming before, but now it's pretty much here. Yeah, it's exciting. Cove stopped picking at his shirt, and he seemed to respond well to that response. He was relieved you weren't upset about it. I'm glad you think so. Then he looked down, and his brows furrowed. You saw his hand shift away from his clothes to instead rub at his arm. Are you looking forward to it? I am. Well, I'm trying to be. He ducked his head further, and you saw his face start to redden. But it's scary. I don't want things to end. Okay. Come on, you don't need to worry. It may be scary now, but it'll be worth it. I sure hope so. Cove then turned his head away and wrapped his arms around himself. You felt a sudden chill that definitely wasn't caused by the air conditioner. I was just thinking, are we really going to stay a couple? His words came out hesitantly. He didn't want to ask this. He didn't want to know. I'm not just talking about today, but forever, always. Listen, it is called Our Life Beginnings and Always, so let's sort this out, I guess. Even if things change later, right now, do you feel like we can make it? Or do you think we can't last? That one day we'll have to move on? We'll be calm. You understood his concern. It was definitely hard to imagine what would happen. However, you didn't let yourself get upset. We'll say that. You thought about the future and how unsure it was. You couldn't know what was to come. However, there was one thing that you did know, and that was how much you cared about him. Cove laughed with a delicate smile on his face. Okay, you win. I wanted to prepare myself for the horrifying unknown, but you're kind of giving me no choice but to be optimistic here. His eyes sparkled with mischief. Strong armor. Listen. I can't believe you're being forced to have hope about life. His lip twitched up at your sarcasm. I know, how am I going to get past this? He gave a small smile and then stopped joking around. Thanks for listening to me, Mandy, it helped. You felt pleased that his anxiety had been eased after talking it out. Want to go back to the table? I bet everyone's wondering what we've been up to. Oh yeah, I forgot what we were doing here. That'd probably be good. With matching smiles, you both reclaimed your seats at the table. Both of you felt lighter and it showed. You seem happy. What was that? Yeah, it looked like you were having quite the conversation over there. It's neighbor stuff, sorry. I used to be your neighbor. He waved off their questions and you didn't offer any explanations. They still seemed curious, but caught that Cove wanted it to stay between the two of you and let it drop. Things relaxed and you took a sip of your drink. Leigh idly tapped the table and got your attention. I'm so excited to try this place. Listen, how have you never taken your cousin there? She's come like at least most summers. I haven't been here in a long time. I hope it's as good as I remember. All the restaurants in the area are pretty top-notch in my humble opinion. We'll see. It was a challenge issued. Liz carried herself like some sort of professional food critic and Mom snorted. Tough crowd. Jeez, Liz. Ma giggled and chimed in as well, much to Liz's embarrassment. That's right, Lizzie, jeez. Oh, jeez Louise. Jeez. Liz put a hand over her eyes in mock offense. I hardly say jeez anymore. Cove smirked and turned to your sister. You leaned forward in your seat. Huh, jeez. Everyone burst out laughing, besides Liz, of course. She smirked. No one could ever accuse your family of being no fun. Night fell soon after everyone finished their meals, and before you knew it, you were standing in the parking lot saying your goodbyes and packing up the cars to go home. After the last of the chores were done, your family spent some more time together. The rest of the night felt like it was going by in the blink of an eye, and somehow the time came to retire to your room to sleep. You pulled your covers up under your chin and settled down for the night, getting warm and cozy. As your head sank into the pillow and you closed your eyes, your mind drifted back to everything that had happened that day. You could see it all now behind your eyelids, as though you were experiencing it all over again. Then the image of Cove popped into your head and you smiled softly to yourself. Taking your phone from your bedside table, you lay on your back and held it above your face, typing a message to Cove. Listen, I would promptly drop it on my face. I have learned not to hold my phone above my face unless I want it on it. Do you want to come over? You chewed on the end of your finger as you watched the screen, waiting for any sign that he was typing back. You were being fair. It was a pretty odd time to have a meetup, but even so, you hoped he would. Your heart leapt as your phone finally buzzed and you stared at his answer on your screen. Okay. Alright. Is he mad at me? No, just kidding. A breath of laughter escaped you as you messaged him back. He hadn't even asked why. You sent him a quick thanks back and put your phone away before sitting up in bed, leaning back against your pillows and waiting for him to come over. The stillness of the night became very obvious to you. You started to hear the soft noises your house made when you were all asleep much more clearly. Each second seemed to drag on and on. You just wanted Cove to be here already. Finally, you heard those familiar sounds coming from outside, a sort of scratching and then shuffling. Next came a tap on the window. You hopped out of your seat with almost too much energy and rushed to let Cove in. When you arrived, you could see Cove was smiling at you from the other side in the dark. You slid the window up and stepped back, giving him space to climb through and get down from the ledge. He was in an amusing mismatch of pajamas and sneakers, and Cove chuckled when he saw you looking at his ensemble. Once safely inside, he straightened up and dusted himself off before looking at you expectantly. What can I do for you? You hugged him. Leaning forward, you wrapped your arms around Cove, feeling him freeze for a brief moment. When he relaxed and hugged you back, you let out a small sigh. Doesn't really matter why, it's okay. You held him for a little while longer, letting his hug relax you, till you pulled back and looked at him gently. The bed sank under Cove's weight as he sat down, his eyes firmly fixed on the ground. His hands shook where he held them in his lap. He was nervous. I'll stay as long as you want me to. Really? Yeah, really. How long do you want to stay? Well, to be honest, there aren't a lot of situations where leaving you is ever what I want to do. I guess only when I annoy you and you need space. Listen, that happens. That happens between everyone. He chuckled softly, doubting that that would happen anytime soon. Okay, you don't have to go anywhere. His face lit up as he settled in even more. It won't have been the first time I've slept in your room. He snickered, feeling pleased with your decision to do this. Should we try and push it? I mean, if he goes back on it, you know, we can retract. But okay, but there's no way I'm letting you take the floor this time. Here we go again. You rolled your eyes and let out a soft laugh, which Cove returned as he rubbed the back of his neck. We could say that, and then maybe he'd be like, "Oh no 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 no," because I feel like that would just be that, or he would argue and just take the floor anyway. I feel like that's not too pushy, so you could probably say that and get away with it. We'll try that, and then if I hate it, we'll go back. His eyebrows dipped. He was growing visibly nervous. It was to be expected. But after what happened last time, you'd been waiting for another chance. You hoped he felt the same, and it seemed he did. Yeah, this time we can share. You'll really stay? You won't leave to be on the floor? He nodded, holding back your delight. You tried not to grin at his sudden resolve. We're gonna share the bed. You could hear the tremble in Cove's voice as he held his hands together to keep them from shaking. He let out a breath and shook his hands in front of him, mentally preparing himself. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be all right. His mouth set into a, this is like a torture. This is torture to him. I feel bad again. His mouth set into a grim line and he balled his hands into fists at his sides, determined. Literally, it is not that serious, but I won't be mean. We'll be calm. Because if we're glad he's making it, what if he doesn't want to again? And then, you know, he feels bad and I don't want that. We'll just be chill. We'll be chill. You simply waited for him to ready himself and gather his nerves. It only took a couple of moments longer before he turned to you, attempting a weak smile. Ready? We're okay. Yeah, let's get in there. You took another deep breath and you slipped under the covers, making room for him to get in after you. Laying straight as a steel rod, Cove tensed up beside you, so still he was barely breathing at all. You rested on your side and faced him, your eyebrows pinched in the middle as you watched him. He looked back at you deeply. Do you need more time? I can leave until you're more set up here. No, please don't go. I want you to stay with me. Ever so slowly, he began to relax, his fingers tentatively brushing up and down your arm. His eyes shut, lashes fanning out over the tops of his cheeks. You still half had expected him to run away like the last time. But he didn't. He stayed right where he was. You don't have to worry about me. Doing stuff like this isn't a problem. It's a process. You nodded in understanding, even though he couldn't see it, giving him time to let his nerves settle. After fluffing up your pillow and getting yourself comfy, you stayed quiet. Eventually, his shoulders became less rigid. When his eyes opened, he smiled and turned his head towards you. Thank you for waiting, again, as always. He laughed shyly, his soft eyes meeting yours through the dim light. Are you okay? Took you long. Could you imagine? Absolutely not. We'll be sweet. I'll always wait for you, Cove. He squeezed your arm a little tighter, his lips curving into a smile as he looked at you in awe. He shuffled closer, an inch at a time, and nuzzled his chin against the top of your head, wrapping his arms around your sides. You let him hold you. The safety and warmth of his arms enveloped you, and you exhaled a contented sigh of your own. The room grew quiet around you. The only sounds to be heard were the faraway crash of the ocean waves and your breath mingling in the small space between you. Cove's heart was pounding, the thump of it rumbling through you as he spoke again softly. You know, I'm not scared of you, right? It's just so many other things that scare me. I'm afraid of what if hypotheticals that aren't actually real, but I think about it anyway. And of nebulous concepts of what things mean that I can barely explain even to myself. I'm scared of my own feelings and how much I feel them. And I'm afraid because tomorrow things will be different between us, but I'll be alone again. He held on to you tighter, his breath stuttering ever so slightly. It's normal right now to see you during the day and part ways at night, except for special occasions. A little laugh escaped him before his tone became serious once more. It's easier to stay where I am than it is to make myself move, to not take a risk, and to not know what I might be missing, but... He hesitated, and you reached up to brush a few strands of hair from his face gently, his eyes slowly fixing on yours. When did doing the easy thing get so hard? When it comes to you, I don't know how to stay still. I want to keep taking steps forward. Honestly, when I see your face or even imagine it, I want to start sprinting. But when I try, I hit a wall. You just gotta keep running into the wall until you go through it, bud. It's just like I physically can't do it on one side of my mind. There's just something blocking me. Then on the other side, I absolutely can't stop myself from doing it. It never ends well. I hate it. It's the most frustrating thing. Why do I do it every time? I'm annoyed with the way I am, so I have no idea how you stand it. I'm sorry I act so split when it comes to, romantic things. I do not want you to think that you're rushing me when I know I'm giving mixed signals. And I know I don't want to miss out being happy by being like this, but sometimes I still can't help it. So basically what I'm trying to say is that I'm glad you've never given up on me. It means a lot. It means everything to me. You don't give up on me either. His eyes glossed over a little bit as he squeezed you closer to him and smiled, his heart rate finally relaxing to a normal rhythm. Good night, Mandy. Good night. He leaned forward and kissed you tenderly, his hand gently moving to cradle the back of your head. You were still smiling as you snuggled into him, getting as close as you could. Cocooned in his warmth, you easily grew comfortable next to him, feeling him ease into you as well. Before long, your eyes were growing heavy and you drifted off in a restful sleep side by side. The next morning, you woke up slowly from a comfortable dream. With a small stretch, you opened your eyes fully to the sun shining through the window. Shuffling onto your side, you noticed Cove still beside you in the bed, sleeping soundly. His arms continued to be draped around you loosely as he snoozed. You must have fallen asleep that way. You smiled, remembering the prior night. It'd been nice to spend the night together, getting to be with him in a whole different way. You could definitely get used to it. You ran a hand through his hair. The familiar scent of his shampoo drifted towards you as you gently raked his soft strands between your fingers. He stirred a little in response, a small, sleepy smile curving his lips. His eyes fluttered open softly, or widening in surprise at the sight of you. As his memories caught up with him, he gave you a bashful smile. Morning. Good morning. You snuggled against him and he smiled softly, making the most of your time together while he nuzzled your hair with his cheek. His breath rested on your skin as he sighed happily, and you tightened your arms around him. Cove. When you tilted your head to meet his eyes, he grinned at you and gently brushed the tip of his nose against yours. I guess we should get up. He sounded reluctant, and if you were being honest with yourself, you were too. Would have been nice to have more time together, just relaxing and hanging out. 5 more minutes. Cove smirked and gave you an affectionate look. We have to. My mom is coming today, remember? I have to start getting ready. You grumbled in reply, but relented nonetheless. Cove shook his head at you with a small smile. You both pulled yourselves up and started shuffling around the room. Cove stretched his long limbs out and yawned before ruffling his fingers through his green hair. You watched him fondly until your eyes met, and he looked away quickly, hiding a blush. So, that was fun. I can't believe I slept here the whole night. Yeah, me either. I'm glad you did, though. Me too. Cove slipped his glasses back on as he spoke those words. With a last shared smile, the two of you headed out of your room, down the stairs, laughing and chatting casually about your plans for the day. It was like he had lived there the whole time, or as if waking up together were as regular an occurrence as anything. Cove snuck his hand into yours, giving it a soft squeeze and making you feel all warm. As you hit the foot of the stairs, you froze, finding four... Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I was about to say, I don't know why you didn't go out the window. As you hit the foot of the stairs, you froze, finding 4 different pairs of eyes staring over at the two of you in various states of amusement and shock. Your family was already up. It took a moment for anyone to speak up, but soon enough a chorus of greetings drifted over. You scanned the place to find your moms, Liz, and Leigh all together around the kitchen and living room. Hi, I mean, good morning. I got here, earlier? Oh yeah, I bet you did. Liz started with undisguised laughter, making Leigh giggle along with her. I've been out here for quite a while, never saw you come through. Well. A blush spread across Cove's cheeks, the pink tinge setting on the tip of his nose. You're also still in your pajamas. You don't usually walk around town during the day in those, do you? Well, it's just across the street, you know, it's fine. Mom let out a little laugh of her own, and you gave her a look, to which she responded by clamping her mouth shut. Cove looked down at his outfit, and his shoulders slumped in defeat as he hung his head to hide his very red face. You know, I was... Uh-oh. We don't need to talk about how long you'd been sneaking over. You know, I always guessed you had been sneaking in, Cove, but could never quite prove it. Mom nodded in agreement, nudging Ma's shoulder playfully as she headed over to stand beside her. That's something I wouldn't have bet against. Liz tutted at the two of them and shook her head. You've definitely gotten too comfortable with their sneaky revelry. You still did good. You never got caught before you turned 18? Leigh smiled from where she sat at the kitchen table, waving a dismissive hand in the air. Surely you can't be punished too hard for it now. I'm not so sure about that. Mandy still lives at home, and I very much doubt that this is the first time she has let Cove in like this. It's the first time. It's never happened before. Ma crossed her arms over her chest, giving both you and Cove a serious look. We may have to have retroactive punishments for all that. I'm sorry, it's not Mandy's fault. I literally invited you over. Yeah, we did it and we do it again. Okay, I want to click it. I want to click it and we'll go back if it's bad. You crossed your own arms, remaining unrepentant. Cove sucked in a deep breath from beside you. At that moment, your moms both burst out laughing, receiving a amused look from Liz and Leigh, while you and Cove simply stood there dumbstruck. We're merciful, don't worry. That's true, you did indeed get away with it, and we're not going to make the little bit of summer you have left miserable over bedtime rule breaking now. Besides, you're in good company. We're almost certain Lizzie spent many nights sneaking the old home phone into her room and staying up till dawn. At least you were in your own rooms. Excuse me, that's conjecture. They exchanged smiles before Ma turned to you again with a firmer expression. They were in their rooms, but I do worry about you coming in that way, Cove. It's dangerous. Especially because he's likely quite distracted and excited by thoughts of reuniting with Mandy while climbing around in the dark. Listen, he's been fine so far. It's okay. Mom joked, and they all burst out laughing once more, keeping Cove fully embarrassed. Cove leaned in closer to you and whispered quietly, a look of guilt settling over his features. I'm sorry, Mandy. Don't worry about it. A knock on the front door caught your attention, and you followed several steps behind Mom as she went up to answer it. Mr. Holden and Kira were standing together. Morning. Hi there. Surprised at that sight, Mom paused a moment. Then she pulled Kira into a hug. Meanwhile, Cove went through a process. Shock and excitement over her arrival rolled right into the awkward realization that he had missed her showing up at the house by being at yours. It's been too long. I know, time's been flying. Kira's gaze slid over to you and then to Cove. Her eyes sparkled with mischief and her mouth curled into a smirk. And it's so good to see my son finally. Hello to you, Mandy. Continuing his ride of emotions, Cove's face slowly reddened. He couldn't quite meet anyone's eye, so he kept looking at his own feet. Sorry, Mom. We'll say hi. It would be rude not to say hi. Smiling nervously, you raised a hand to offer her a small wave. Kira chuckled, thoroughly amused by your reaction. It's okay. Kira gave his back a few reassuring pats, but Cove's face seemed to get even redder. She grinned. My not-so-little mistress, spreading his wings. I can't complain about that. Mom immediately brought a hand to her face to hide her mouth, but a giggle still escaped. People looked at her confused, and then she laughed again louder. It's just a really fitting phrase considering Cove's current attire. Listen, leave the boy alone. She pointed at the feathery wing-like decal around the collar of Cove's pajama shirt. Oh! Everyone turned their attention to Cove. Even he looked down at his own clothes over the realization. That's so true, I didn't even notice. All the parents burst into continued laughter. Cove was clearly not as amused. He flashed him a smile and he visibly perked up. It's really nice to be back. Enough of this standing around out here. Come on in. Mom moved aside to usher the group in and guided them to the living room. Before anyone could get settled in, Mom spoke up. You're all welcome to stay for breakfast. We still have some great spices and stuff left from the farmer's market. I forgot we did that this step. Yes, we'd be thrilled to host you. There were eager nods from Mr. Holden and Kira, but Cove looked around the room filled with familiar faces before speaking up. Maybe instead of staying here, why don't we go to the beach? A scenic picnic, eh? Mr. Holden crossed his arms, contemplated the idea happily. Excited, Kira clapped her hands together. Oh, we could really make a day out of it. Might as well enjoy the ocean while we can. That sounds lovely, Cove. Everyone else put in their own agreement with Cove's suggestion. Before long, both families dispersed, getting everything ready. Sandwiches had to be made, water, sunscreen, towels, and more needed to be gathered and packed. Plus, you and Cove both took some time to get dressed for the day. That was the real reason. He's like, I need to get out of these pajamas stat. An hour later, both your family and Cove's were walking down the old path to the beach. The morning was already turning into a bright and beautiful day. You honestly couldn't ask for better weather for a beach trip. The moment you laid your eyes on the full view of the ocean, you stopped and stood there mesmerized. Didn't matter that you grew up there. The sight always filled you with wonder. Hey, Mandy? I was thinking about calling Terry and Miranda, see if they can come too. Everyone is pretty much already here, so would your family mind? That'd be cool, I'll ask them. You were already so excited at the prospect of seeing your friends today that you immediately darted away in the direction your moms went. Behind you, you could hear the familiar sound of Cove laughing. I have a question. Would it be alright if Terry and Miranda came by? I don't see why not. Ma looked to Mom to see what she thought. She nodded in agreement. Mom then shot a glance over at Mr. Holden and Kira, knowing that they had likely heard everything. Cliff, Kira, what do you two think? The more the merrier. Of course, they're welcome with me. Thanks. Delighted, you nodded and turned on your heels. Cove was still several feet away, talking to Liz and Lee, likely about the same topic. With a beaming smile, he gave him a thumbs up, and the two of them must have also approved, as Cove quickly got his phone out and started making the calls. At that, you turned your attention to helping with the picnic setup. Unexpectedly, your phone started ringing. You dug it out, curious to see the caller ID. Feeling your heart jump with excitement, you answered the video call request. It was Derek. Oh my god, I forgot about Derek. Hey, it's been a while. Seriously, but what's up? The voice that came through was much deeper than it had been when you first met, but it still had the same exact enthusiasm of a kid. Have you been enjoying these crazy summer days? It's been amazing. That's awesome. You'll have to catch me up on that. What about you? How's your summer been? You were beyond curious to know what Derek had been up to since the last time you spoke. He chuckled, noticing your invested tone. Honestly, I've just been slammed with stuff lately. College applications and scholarship inquiries. What else is new? Your only real struggle will be choosing which place to go. They'll all be desperate to have you. Totally. His chuckle turned into a sigh. You could hear the small smile when he spoke. Really hope so anyway. That would be amazing. What about your family? Are your brothers being good? My little brothers are little punks, but I guess they're doing alright. You both laughed at that. Mom and Dad are fine. That's great. My moms are too. Turning your attention back to your surroundings, you smiled warmly at your family buzzing around. Towels were laid out and chairs and umbrellas were being set up. Actually, I'm out with my moms right now. Liz and Lee are here visiting too. Oh, that's fun. But if that's the deal, I'll let you get back to it. Are you sure? I don't mind. I'm sure. I'm not about to lose your number. Okay, bye. Bye, Mandy. Have a heck of a day. Have a heck of a day. Hanging up, the conversation left you energized and in good spirits. It was exactly what you needed to make the day even better. You hurried over to your mom's and helped put the rest of the food out. In moments, you noticed Cove at your side. So what did they say? They're gonna come. Cool, thanks for calling them. No problem, I'm glad I thought of it. They'll meet us here later today. Shouldn't be too long. I can't wait. Once the setup was done, everyone got comfortable and dug into the food. You couldn't remember the last time breakfast tasted this good, but you attributed it to the gorgeous ocean view and the soothing sea breeze. Morning swiftly gave way into afternoon, and a very recognizable face came walking down the shore. Baxter seemed momentarily surprised to see you all there. He pleasantly approached with a wave. Listen, he just kind of disappeared, huh? Hello there. I mean to intrude on the party. I was coming down to get some fresh air. Oh, you didn't intrude on anything. You're welcome to join us. We brought plenty of towels and food and sunscreen. Yeah, you're one of the neighbors. Kick back and relax with us. Well, I can't possibly say no to that. Thank you. Baxter's gaze moved over to you and Cove. He smiled. Bandy, Cove, long time no see. Hi. You waved from where you leisurely sat, and Cove nodded. It was then that Baxter noticed the faces he didn't immediately recognize from around the neighborhood. He turned up his charm even more for their introductions. Excuse me, I'm Baxter Ward. I'm sorry we haven't met before. Well, we're not typically from around this area. Just visiting. I'm Cove's mom. Few giggles escaped Leigh as she watched Baxter carefully. When his attention turned to her now, she held out a hand. I'm Leigh. I'm Mandy and Liz's cousin. Baxter shook it and took a step back. Leigh's smile grew. I'll remember that. It's very nice to meet you both. After that, Baxter spent some time getting better acquainted with everyone, and Terry and Miranda arrived excitedly. The conversation shifted to what you all would do next. We could do a few rounds of volleyball. There's plenty of us now. Could I play? Of course. Miranda brightened, delighted with this plan. Ma looked around to see if there were any other takers. I don't feel like playing. I'd have to change, but it'd be fun to watch. I could be the ref. My eyes won't miss a thing. Volleyball's a good idea, but there should probably be something happening for those who aren't a fan. Ooh, I have some crafting supplies we could use to make jewelry. We could even use stuff we find around the beach to accentuate them. What? Really? I want to make a necklace. I'd be interested in trying my hand at that too. Promptu crafting is my kind of party. I'd like to join too, please. I'm gonna play volleyball. You looked at Ma, ready to jump into a competitive mode. She looked thrilled to have you on board. I'm game to play some volleyball. Now that the plans were settled, the group temporarily split in two. Alright, sports stars, you're gonna have to pick partners and then it's game on. Mr. Holden left the rest to you to deliberate and turned his attention to drawing a makeshift court in the sand. Well, she walked over to you and hooked an arm around yours. You laughed. I want to be on Mandy's team. That's fine. Alright, it'll be Ma and me. You wanted to have fun with your ma. Cove put on his game face, not intending to go easy on you now that you were on opposite sides. Cove then turned to Miranda. He looked determined. Ready to win. Yeah. When Mr. Holden finished drawing the court, he went and fetched the volleyball from the various other supplies you brought there. Sounds like we have our teams all set, right? Yep. Good. Now get to your sides. The four of you situated yourself on one side or the other of the court with your partner. Mr. Holden tossed the ball to Ma. Since this was all Nalani's idea, I think it's fair that she gets to serve first. Thank you, Cliff. Woo, Ma, show 'em who's boss. Go, Mandy, make them eat sand. You kicked a small heap of sand out of your way on the simple court, making her laugh. You turned back towards Ma. Don't hold back. I wouldn't think of it. With that, Ma got into position and delivered a practice first serve. The game began. In the battle over the volleyball, both teams scored points. There wasn't a set amount to reach to end things, so it went back and forth for as long as everyone wanted to play. The game went on for quite a while as everyone got into it, especially with the cheers and added commentary. Liz and Mr. Holden made the whole game better with their humor and wit. From a distance, the jewelry making group would also cheer when they heard shouts coming out of the court. On top of that, they would hold up each newly made piece in the air, and players would take a breather to applaud their creation. It wasn't until all of you were exhausted from the running, spiking, and diving that a truce was called. You enjoyed every moment of it. The afternoon continued to drift by, but the fun was still going strong. Occasionally someone would head back to the houses to use the bathroom, rest away from the sun a while, or to retrieve something that they needed. But they always came back. The beach was never empty, and there was always a new conversation to take part in, or another game to join. At one point, Mr. Holden even broke out his pack of cards. He roped the whole group into a few rounds of good old Go Fish. I haven't played Go Fish in so long. Probably since I was a kid. I used to love it, though. There was only one thing that could bring this beach day to an end, and that was the day itself to end. Before anyone realized it, the sun began to set over the sea. As that happened, you were taking a break, sitting on your towel, with your legs stretched out past it, your feet buried in the warm sand. You were listening to music on a little speaker next to you. Shortly, you looked up to see your moms approaching. They stopped in front of you and you smiled. "Hey there, kiddo. How are you doing?" "I'm doing really good. How about you?" "We're wonderful." They both sat down, squishing you between them. Ma leaned her head against yours, and Mom started rubbing your back soothingly. Nothing more was said at first, but Ma sighed contentedly. Mom looked at you wistfully. "We're both really proud of you, Mandy. You grew up to be more than we could ever hoped." "It's only thanks to you two." Ma wrapped an arm around your middle and squeezed you tightly in a side hug. Mom continued, lightly scratching your back. "That means a lot, but I think you're selling yourself short. You've always been a lovely person. I'm so thrilled to know you." Your voice faltered, and you honestly couldn't imagine your life any other way. Ma lightly brushed some of your hair back and left a small kiss there. "I'm so happy I got to have both of you as my moms." After that, all three of you were sitting there getting all sentimental. I don't know how we got so lucky with you and Liz. Ma reached out in front of you for Mom's hand. She gave it to her and Ma squeezed it. Mandy has a point. We must have done something right. You stayed there quietly and contentedly, watching the sunset with your parents for a while, till Mr. Holden called out to you. He was still walking in your direction. "We were talking and we're thinking to take a walk down to the shore. Any of you want to come?" Automatically, you looked to your moms for what they were thinking. Mom glanced from you to Ma and smiled. "That sounds good to me." "Yes, that'd be very nice. My legs need some stretching." "Let's go." Thrilled, Mr. Holden threw out a thumbs up, began heading back to the way he came in a light jog. "Hey, don't leave us in the dust." Cliff kept going forward, but flipped around, walking backwards across the sand so he could face you again. "Don't worry, we wouldn't leave without you." "Alright, we'll catch up." Before you forgot, you turned off the speaker and left it on the towel for now. "Ready to go?" "Uh-huh." Both of your moms held out a hand to you. Chuckling, you gave them each one, and you all strolled back to the rest of the group. When Liz was in reach, Ma used her free hand to pull her into it too. Liz shook her head, but her mouth quirked into a smirk that she didn't resist. Together as a family, you followed behind the others hand in hand. Your feet squished into the wet sand as the waves rolled over them, and you didn't have a single care in the world as more and more stars began to dot the sky. Once the sun had long been out of sight, it was finally time to pack up. The closing of the day and the ever-approaching end of summer seemed to intertwine. It caused a quiet, reflective mood to blanket over the group. On the beach, Terry and Miranda took turns compressing Cove in a hug before moving on to do the same to you. You chuckled, still overjoyed that you got to see them today. "Sorry we have to go already. My parents are here." "That's okay. But still, I wish we could help clear all this up." "Don't worry about it. Just thanks for coming out today. It was cool having everyone here." "Oh yeah, I'm super glad we came. Hopefully we can do it again sometime." Nodding, you turned your attention to Terry. She wore a large grin on her face and held out a hand for a low five. You obliged. "Take care of yourself, buddies." After that, they walked away, waving to you and Cove as they went down the shore. Cove waved quietly back with a small smile on his face. "Bye." You cupped your hands around your mouth and projected the word louder. They both waved faster. "Bye." "Have a good night." Taking you by surprise, Terry jumped and twisted around. She kept up with Miranda by walking backwards. She kept the mood of your farewell light by shooting finger guns at you in Cove. Miranda bumped her with a hip, and it left everyone with a laugh just before they disappeared down the bend. Mandy? Hey, Cove, could you come here? Both of your parents were motioning for you. The two of you went to them. Tons of things ended up at the beach over the course of the day, so there was still so much to pack up, and the parents needed help. With a nod, you got to it, stuffing various things into bags and bundling them up in towels. Once things were ready to go, everyone filled their arms with as much as they could carry. Absolutely no one wanted this to be a back and forth kind of task. The walk back home ended up being mostly quiet. Each person seemed to be feeling the effects of the day. Cool breeze carried you across the sand and onto the road. There was a sigh of relief from what felt like the group as a whole when they arrived back to the neighborhood. Baxter carefully placed what he had been carrying on the road. Thank you so much for helping with that. No, thank you for allowing me to join today. You all shared with me. Helping to carry it back is the least I can do. Ma nodded, and the others started collecting their things from his pile. Meanwhile, Baxter stepped over to you in Cove. It really was a pleasure getting to know you both this summer. His head tilted towards you, and he smiled warmly. Baxter offered you his hand. Handshake is fine. It was tough with what you were carrying, but you were able to extend one of your hands for a bit. Baxter chuckled and shook it. Good luck on your next semester at school. Why, thank you, and good luck with your plans this fall. Thanks. Baxter turned to shake Cove's hand this time. He was a little incredulous for a moment, but then Cove eventually shifted what he was carrying and took Baxter's hand. It wasn't long, but it was a solid handshake. Baxter was clearly pleased. I wish we had more time together, but it was still a nice ride while it lasted. Would happily do it all over again. Bye, Baxter. Yeah, bye. Baxter nodded and walked a few steps towards his condo. He then stopped and waved. Goodbye. Baxter sauntered away completely and disappeared inside the condo to return to his own things. His time with you and your family and friends ending. He paused for a moment, staring at where he went. But afterwards, you looked back over at the rest of the group. Lee and Liz were just going inside your house. You couldn't spot Kira or Mr. Holden anywhere, but the door to their house was wide open. Mom approached you with a amused look on her face. Seems like you're holding up some Holden things. Surprised, you glanced down to take a quick inventory of what you were holding. Mom was right. Some of it belonged to the neighbors. Would you mind dropping it off now? Can do. It's not a problem. Thank you very much. Cove took a few steps towards his house and stopped, waiting for you. Good night, Cove. I'll see you inside, Mandy. Night. Caught up to Cove, and together you went over to his house. Walking in the front door, you saw Kira and Mr. Holden busily unpacking already. Things were scattered on counters, and they were moving around each other, putting items away. They both lifted their heads when Cove closed the front door. Hey. It's nice seeing you again already, Mandy. Her teasing tone brought a light smile to your face. You hefted the stuff in your arms a little closer. I ended up with things of yours from the beach. Oh, thanks for getting that to us. You can put it here on the coffee table. Mr. Holden pointed at the surface he was referring to, and you immediately left what didn't belong to your family there. Cove put his own things down on the floor just at his feet, wading through everything strewn about to reach his parents. Putting your family stuff on the ground for a moment, you dusted your hands off and straightened up. You needed a second of rest and a minute to resituate it all. You went over to where the others were too. Kira opened her arms wide, wanting to hug you. You accepted. Happily, you went to her. She held on tightly. Over the years, you were able to form a good rapport with her, and we're grateful for that. You could feel in her hug how much Kira had grown to care about you, brought an affectionate smile to your face. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It was a blast. It's no problem. I had fun too. Kira eventually released you, but patted the tops of your shoulders as a final gesture. Every time I've gotten to come by, it's been an absolute joy. Things really couldn't have worked out better. Mr. Holden took a step closer to you. Kira moved aside to let him say goodbye too. He grinned. Thanks for always being such a friendly neighbor. And not just right now, but for as long as I've known you. Didn't always make it easy, but you and your family are good people. I really, truly appreciate it. Thanks again, Mandy, so much. At that, Mr. Holden reached over and gave you a soft pat on the top of your head. You're good people, too. You smiled softly. Mr. Holden looked away for a moment and sniffled. When he met your gaze once more, his mouth pulled in a wide, happy grin. It means a lot to me. Mr. Holden was staring at you, but his gaze seemed far away. Maybe he was looking back at who you used to be, the 8-year-old he had asked to be his son's new friend. Bye, Mandy. He smiled softly. Then Cove took a step forward. He gestured to his pile of things he had carried into the house. Don't worry about all that. I'll put stuff away in a few minutes. Right, I need to go do the same with my family. I figured. Cove walked you to the door and held it open. Taking one last check around to make sure you had all your things to bring home, you went into the road. He leaned his body against the doorframe, not following you out. So this is it, huh? Actually, that's not what I meant. His expression twisted and he shook his head a bit, like he was trying to banish the pensive thoughts. I'll just say bye. Bye, I'll see you soon. Your mouth pulled into a soft smile, and you weren't sure who you were trying to reassure more. Cove reached forward and gently cupped your face with one hand. His thumb trailed across your cheek for several heartbeats. Mesmerized by his blue eyes, you stepped forward, delighted to oblige the request he was silently asking. He met you halfway as you smiled into the kiss. It was soft with longing, and your chest ached knowing that there couldn't be anything more than this, at least for now. One of his hands grabbed onto the door handle firmly and held it. He was stopping himself from coming along with you. As you walked over to your own front door, you stopped. Turning around, you spotted Cove right where you left him. You laughed quietly to yourself. For a small pause, you both stared at each other from across the street. We're gonna hug him goodbye. You put the remaining stuff from the beach down on the step and almost tripped, bolting across the street. The next thing you knew, you were diving into Cove's arms, wrapping your arms around his middle. The force of it all knocked you both loudly into the doorway. But neither of you cared. You both held each other tightly, and you could feel Cove resting his cheek on the top of your head. Night, Mandy. He smelled like salt water and sunscreen, and like home. It was a while until either of you thought to separate. Slowly, you made the trek home and collected what you left on the step into your arms again. Things couldn't be dragged out any longer. After one more shared smile, you opened the door and went inside, shutting it behind you. A few steps in, you saw your family gathered in the living room. They were still busy unpacking and cleaning. You added things you brought home to the pile on the kitchen counter. Mom stood up, rubbing her eyes a bit. She yawned loudly. I'm bushed. How about we finish the rest of the chores tomorrow? Yes, honestly, it's too late for this. Please and thank you. Ma put her hands on her hips and turned to assess the room. Ma was not the one who liked to leave a mess about, but she sighed. I suppose we can make an exception to the usual rule. It has been a really long day. Liz grinned contentedly. Lee wasted no time in skipping over to you and hooking you into a side hug. Good night. I hope you have the loveliest of dreams of you-know-who. Lee ended that sentence with a wink and a hearty laugh. She let you go. You laughed. Her comment was pretty much exactly what you were expecting out of her, and for several moments you couldn't stop laughing. Lee giggled, happy that you were also enjoying her teasing. She playfully nudged you with her elbow. The grin on her face widened. Don't worry, your private thoughts are safe with me. Here's to us, Mandy. Tonight, tomorrow, and forever. Yeah, family forever. Lee leaned in close to whisper in your ear. You didn't fail to catch the teasing look on her face. Exactly. There's no escape. That got a laugh out of you. You lightly pushed her shoulder. Lee stretched her arms high above her head. She yawned loudly and looked at you with tired eyes. I think that's my cue to head to bed. Bye. I think so too. Have fun sharing the room with Liz. She laughed at that and Lee shuffled off towards the guest bedroom. Before you had a chance to do anything else, you could feel the top of your head being tapped. You spun around to see Liz smirking. Nighty-night, I'm heading to bed too. It's been a long day and I have a lot to prepare for tomorrow. Exhaling, you automatically started fixing the back of your hair. When Liz didn't immediately walk away, you smiled softly at her. Everything okay? Her gaze moved away, and you knew she had more to say. You waited patiently for Liz to compose her thoughts. It's been a good summer. It was nice to come back home. You nodded, and Liz gave you a teasing nudge as she went by. Amused, you turned to watch her go. Love you, baby sister. I love you too. Liz stopped walking and stared at you for a moment. She smiled softly at you. Get some sleep soon. Morning will be here faster than you know it. I will. When Liz was out of sight, Mom started up the next conversation over her shoulder. Aren't you heading up to bed too? Literally me, I would have to get it cleaned up. I want to finish getting everything cleaned up. What? Are you sure? It can wait. Glancing around the room, a moment. The disarray made you feel a bit twitchy. You had a feeling that you'd sleep sounder if you took your time cleaning before bed. Yeah. Ma came over too, smiling understandingly. She pulled you into a big hug. All right, you do what you need to do. I love you. When you were done hugging, Mom pulled you into another hug, their actions basically handing you off to the other. Had you laughing jovially. I love you so much. I love you too. Aww. They both couldn't resist taking turns hugging you again. Your smile widened. It felt good to be so loved. Good night, kiddo. Sleep tight. Good night, sweetie. Night. After that, your mom's headed off towards their bedroom down the hall. You're about to turn the other direction when you heard Mom's voice. And don't let the bed bugs bite. You heard Ma chuckling as you watched them go with a smile. It's a while later when you finished putting everything away. You didn't rush the process at all. Your sleeping hours may have to be cut into, but you felt so much better getting this done. You sighed contentedly, gazing at the organized living room and kitchen. Before you could take a well-earned break on the couch, something out the window caught your eye. Your feet brought you right in front of the large windows spanning the length of the back wall. You stared out into the hills behind your house. As if on cue, your phone came on, alerting you of a new notification. It was Cove. Want to hang out on the hill tonight? Something inside you told you that this was the right kind of night to take a trip out there. You sent him back a very quick message. Yeah. Little heart. Aww. You went over to the front door and stepping over the threshold, you gave the living room one last glance over your shoulder. Then you shut the door behind you. Silently, you made your way to the Poppy Hill. With light steps in the dark, you walked across the hills behind your house. Up ahead at the very top, silhouetted beneath the night sky, was a familiar figure already waiting there. Smiling, you wondered just how he always got there first. You even had the advantage of living closer. Then again, and maybe it was only in your mind, but somehow Cove was intrinsically linked with this place. After all these years, it would be so weird to scan this horizon and not find him there, as surreal as the shore without the sea. The distance between you was growing shorter by the second. Hearing the grass and earth crunch under your feet, Cove turned. A grin spread over his face as he saw you. You took your place standing behind him on the crest of the Poppy Hill, looking out over the ocean. Same as you'd done on countless times since he'd first arrived, when you found him on this very same spot. Mandy. He had officially broken the silence, the spell that had you both in place. You looked at him expectantly. There's something I've always kind of wondered about. He cocked his head, giving you a sidelong glance. What did you think about when we met? I was just a kid you'd never seen before, bawling his eyes out on the hill next to your house. He chuckled, his eyes drifting towards the sea beyond, before flicking back to you. The way his gaze pulled back to you made it clear that he was genuinely invested in the topic. Luckily for him, you remembered what initially struck you in that moment. It was as if it had only happened yesterday. Well, I remember noticing the neon pink cast you had to wear that summer. Cove burst into genuine laughter at your reply. Guess that's fair, it did kind of stand out. Sighing a bit, you continued to reminisce about that first meeting. I also remember feeling bad about what was happening. I remember that too. He ran a hand through his hair, and you knew his line of questioning wasn't at an end, even before he spoke again. Do you remember what you thought about me? You know, as a person. Was I annoying or mean or... That you're special somehow. Cove brought a hand to his mouth, half hiding his self-conscious smile. His wavy eyebrows were raised in open amazement. Thank you for feeling that way. He scrunched his eyes closed, regretting his phrasing. Oh, that sounded weird. I'm sorry, but yeah, I'm glad. Cove's hand drifted to the scar on his arm, his fingers unconsciously gliding over the mark. It was much less noticeable than it had been when the neon pink cast had come off, shrunken gradually over the years as his body healed, then dwarfed in comparison to his growing body. Still, his fingers came back to it without thinking. He gave a half smile, not meeting her eyes. I feel bad now. The thoughts I had were, well, considering what you were thinking, I come across a lot worse of a kid. You didn't like me? No, I definitely wasn't that. Cove lifted his head up, finally committing to meet your eyes fully once more. I remember you that day. I remember it really well. I don't think I'd ever be able to forget. I can picture the way you looked back then when I first saw you standing right here. I still know the expression on your face when you chose to sit with me in the grass. He chuckled self-derisively, interrupting his own monologue. You scared me at first. I figured I'd be alone out there until I had to face my dad again. Then suddenly another kid appeared out of nowhere. It was startling, but I got over that fast. You were a strange person in a strange place, but in that moment, you were exactly what I needed. Somebody I could talk to freely about what was happening and how it made me feel. And you listened to me. You stayed with me. He sighed, then bit his lip as he gave a small smile. I was a little bit spoiled growing up. You let him continue. He looked off again, seeking clarity for his thoughts in the expanse of the night sky. What I'm trying to say is, when I was younger, I viewed myself basically as the center of the universe. I didn't even imagine it was like that. Things didn't simply happen. That would be weird, according to my little kid brain. It made far more sense that everything in my life had a specific connection to me somehow, right? He sought affirmation in you, wavy brows raised as he tried to explain his childlike logic. So at the time you felt almost unreal. Like you weren't just anyone, some other kid who happened to live in that neighborhood with your own life that wasn't connected to Cove Holden. No, to me, you were there so that you could find me when I was lost. Though it turns out you were there for that. You were trying to find me because something had sent you specifically to do that. I just didn't expect it to be my dad. I guess he knew more about what I needed than I thought. He chuckled, shaking his head as he shook off the thought. I kind of expected it all to vanish like a dream when that night was over. I'd wake up and everything would be the same again. I'd be back in my bed at home, my real home, with both my parents. The future was something I couldn't picture anymore. I didn't know what school would be like when I went back, or the table where I'd eat breakfast the next morning, or anything. And if I couldn't imagine it, how could I think it was something actually happening? Couldn't grasp my new reality. It was too big for me to hold all at once. So I never thought I'd see you again. Then Cove beamed at you, his eyes shining bright. And I never ever would have been able to guess that 10 years later, when I was a grown-up, the two of us would still be together. I'm so glad I met you. There you go. I feel the same about you. But the smile faded from his face as his eyebrows drew together. That was the worst day of my life at the time. The day my family broke apart. It was too heavy for me to even think about. I felt that way for I don't know how long. He held a hand over his heart, connecting with the pain he'd felt as a child, looked at you earnestly. But that was never really true. Things have only gotten better with me, and with Dad and Mom. It was the change we all needed. His eyes were growing misty. So when I remember that time right now, it's not the point that my life was over. It was only the moment that I met the woman I was going to be with. When I was crying to a stranger over what I thought I'd lost, I didn't have any idea she would be the one thing in the world that I actually wouldn't be able to live without. I never want to lose you. You won't. He leaned into the kiss, his lips soft against yours. Cove sighed contentedly. His voice was as delicate as the petals on the poppies which crowned this hill. Hey, Mandy. I'm so grateful you always took care of me. You didn't even know what to say back to that. His heartfelt appreciation left you speechless. He tilted his head up, thoughts lost in the sparse clouds above. I wonder how late it is. I guess it doesn't really matter. My dad is fine with me being out whenever. You nodded quietly. Mr. Holden was content giving Cove all the freedom he could. Are you gonna lay in the grass now? Wow, how'd you know? Predictable. Lucky guess. With a chuckle, Cove plopped down on the ground and laid on his back, his usual way of spending time there. You laid down and snuggled against him. You lowered yourself against Cove's side in the grass and wrapped an arm over his chest. Cove smiled at you and used his free hand to cradle your face. The both of you fully settled in to relax on the hill. It felt just like the beginning of one of your nightly outings, but then you realized the sun was peeking out over the horizon. Cove spoke up with a disbelieving tone. It really was late. Your neighbor wasn't a stranger to being awake at dawn. However, not like this. He was normally an early sleeper, early riser. This unexpected sunrise particularly awed him. The two of you watched silently as the sun began to light the world. Cove then propped himself up on the backs of his arms and looked at you with a soft expression on his face. Do you want to go back home? I could carry you if you're too tired. I'd rather stay a little longer. You couldn't resist a yawn, but you were serious. It couldn't be time to go already. Cove chuckled affectionately and gripped you a little more. Okay, but it's been a long day. We've done a lot of things. Like, really a lot. It has to end sometime. Does it really have to end? Yeah, I don't think there's anything either of us can do about that. But we can stay if you want to. Cove smiled brightly at you, as warm as the new rays of sun that were tickling your skin. That moment, you couldn't have appreciated him being there more. You leaned into Cove. You bent yourself against Cove for extra support. He tilted his head against yours. Good morning, Cove. He gave you a bent smile and went for the opposite sentiment. Good night, Mandy. The two of you remained together on that familiar poppy hill where you first met until the world began to fade and blur. You were falling asleep. A few more gentle words drifted into your consciousness. I'll see you tomorrow. Your eyelids dipped, but you felt good. You were safe and relaxed. Everything that had come before had reassured you of that. You were confident that when you opened them again, things would be okay. You opened your eyes. Instead of the walls of your room, you were surrounded by open sky. It was not soft pillows and sheets underneath you, but the bed of earth and grass you'd taken last night. The day welcomed you with a shining sun, a refreshing breeze, the chirping song of birds. You cupped your face with your hands as you sat up, feeling an imprint of blades of grass leaving lines on your cheeks. Mandy. Hearing your name, you lowered your hands to look around. There he was, your most influential neighbor, Cove Holden. He had made himself very comfortable, laying on his stomach with jewelry and shoes taken off and a flower in his hand. Good morning. Good morning to you too. Cove laughed, tickled with the overall situation and simply being able to spend time like this. Told you I'd see you tomorrow. I'm glad you were right. Cove's face lit up in a broad grin. Me too, but there really wasn't any doubt. Cove turned his head up to the sky, expressing content. Looks like it's going to be a nice day. We'll have to come up with something to do to make the most of it. He trailed off, blinking slowly in the sunlight. Someday, when we're even older than we are now, I wonder what we'll end up remembering this moment for. What will we feel when we look back at it? Will it be the same as what we're feeling right now? I can't see what the future is going to look like again, but I think that's all right. I don't know, but I'm looking forward to finding out. Cove turned back to you, nodding in full agreement. He eyed the hill sprawling out before you, and down below, where the wild hill and nature gave way to civilization. Your home and Cove's lay down at the bottom, neatly filed among the other houses in the neighborhood. Hey, Mandy, I bet I can beat you in getting back to the road. You laughed, amused by the wager that reminded you of so many moments in your youth. As much as I like it here, it's okay if we leave now. We can always come back and see the poppies and the fireflies again, right? Cove met your eyes, waiting for what you were going to say in response. Yeah, we better do that. You're not getting out of it. Cove blinked slowly, his eyes still locked on you. But you didn't need to see his face to know that he adored you. If there had been any room for doubt, the tender way he spoke would have filled it up. You're really irreplaceable, huh? Cove beamed at you. His expression was so unlike the one he'd worn when you first found him here, swaddled in sadness and uncertainty. Yet you couldn't help but glimpse that boy once more underneath his bright expression and matured features. Come on. He offered you a hand. You accepted it, your palm fitting around his. Cove lifted himself up, pulling you along too. Our parents probably aren't going to come running for us this time. We've got to make our own call, and I say we can't hide away forever. Poppy Hill is just one part of things. There's more out there for us than this time and this place alone. Let's enjoy it. Couldn't say whether you were the one that broke into a run, if Cove had been the one to start it, or if your feet had simultaneously made that choice for you both. The end result was the same, with the two of you dashing down the hill like children, but with the nostalgic revelry that could only come as an adult. As the wind whipped past you, you knew that family and friends were waiting at the end of your sprint. There were more memories to make after all. Life takes another step forward. We did it! That was cute. That was a cute little story. I suppose it only makes sense that we end with the hill. Gotta end where it all began. I do love that they had to add the name that you gave, the last name you gave them to the credits. That's neat. That's a neat little touch. You're so welcome. Not the in-between. Okay, let's see what this in-between thing is. I think I'm fine leaving it as it is. Okay. Oh, we can have tattoos now? That's fun. Okay. I mean, I feel like at this stage, right? Yes. I don't want to customize either. We'll say high initiative at this point. It's not like new love, you know what I mean? And so your days growing up in the loving cradle of Sunset Bird came to an end. In the years that passed since graduation, you moved out of your childhood home, made your own way in the world. You not lived with Cove and his fish. With Cove, his fish. And the pet you picked. And you... Aw, that'll be cute. In the... I Okay, so they were doing ocean stuff. So what could we parlay that into? Wouldn't it be cute if they did like a little bed and breakfast type thing? But then they could take care, like it could be seaside, and then they could take care of the little area of ocean they have. It would be great. Your family members went through the same kinds of leaps into independence. Liz and Lee both eventually earned degrees and started fantastic careers in new towns. But your mom's and Cove's father still lived on the same street as they had for all those years before. It was comforting to you that there were still some things that remained in the old neighborhood. And despite the ever-changing reality of your adult life, your friends were still your friends, though of course things weren't exactly the same for them either. Very recently, Terry publicly came out as a man and switched the spelling of his name to use a Y instead of an I. He also confessed his love for Miranda. Listen. I had a thought. I had a feeling. I was like, there's something. There was something there. I knew it. He also confessed his love for Miranda, which she excitedly reciprocated. They moved in together recently in the city out past Sunset Bird. Derek was busy as always, but doing well. He always made an effort to keep in touch. You even saw each other in person occasionally. One person who did disappear into the shuffle of memories inside your mind was Baxter. After his vacation in Sunset Bird one year, he was just gone. You had never truly counted him as a close friend, though. Then there's what's become of the sad little boy you grew up with, Cove Holden. Your deep affection for him was something that continued to last unabated over the years. Listen, they got engaged. We're having a happy ending. The past years were certainly busy. You'll never forget the moment the love you had for one another was let out in the open. Listen, if he wants to wear a ring too, that's fine by me. And the ring Cove wore would look like I love how they're like platinum, silver, it's all the same. He truly thrived in his continued efforts of cultivating loving and supporting relationships with his family and friends. His personality had changed, becoming more reserved, though not at all unkind. Cove was a gentle, loyal, considerate man who took the lessons he learned over the years to treat the people around him with patience and understanding. When Cove eventually developed a picture of the future he wanted to have as an adult, you could see where he was coming from based on his past interest. Cove decided against pursuing a degree and focused fully on building up a career. He worked with you in your shared business, naturally teaching surf lessons on the side, and he still volunteered with Orca when his workload allowed it. As an adult, Cove was also able to recognize and have diagnosed that he was on the autism spectrum. It was something that hadn't been noticed by his doctors as a child, but he was still the same Cove he always was to you, and he was just glad to understand himself better. It thrilled you to see how happy and successful he'd grown up to be. On the whole, life continued its steady beat forward, and you all went with it down the paths you chose. It was strange and wonderful. But no matter how old you got, how far you roamed, or how long you were away, the home you had in Sunset Bird still called you back eventually. The car rumbled down the highway. You had started to zone out when a truck in the left lane loudly zoomed past. Your driver didn't remark on it, just like anything else this trip. You went back to staring out the window, letting the scenery pass you by. You did appreciate the spacious back seat of your ride. You hadn't known exactly when you would be coming in, so you had decided to use a ride app rather than to ask your moms to pick you up. It had turned out to be a convenient choice. You looked forward to surprising your parents at the door. You smiled at the thought of their faces lighting up. Luckily, this hadn't been that big of a trip for you. You lived close enough that the travel hadn't turned into a big production. However, that didn't make the occasion mundane. For once, your moms had decided to have a modest celebration dinner for their anniversary. Unlike when you were growing up and they preferred not to make a big deal out of it, this year they were comfortable having a party. As time went on, they found being the center of attention easier to handle. You were happy to see it. With this going on, there was no way that either you or Liz would miss your mom's anniversary. Both of you had made plans to come back home for it. You didn't hear from Liz about her exact schedule, but you hadn't shared yours either. It reminded you of when you were kids and you both knew to show up for dinner, but didn't keep each other in the loop for each other's pre-dinner plans. It's the same concept after all. Some things stayed the same, and yet it was definitely different from when you would see your sister every day and knew sort of what she was doing anyways from osmosis. Today you had no idea. Things were always changing. You mused on how at times it was hard to believe you didn't live with your parents anymore, and yet you also couldn't imagine going back and living as a kid under their rules. The rest of the drive flew by. Your silent driver provided a smooth ride. No sharp turns or hard stops jostled you out of your own head. Your thoughts turned from introspective to observant. The landscape passing by became more and more familiar. You frequently recognized the landmarks that dotted the area. A grin came to your face as you passed the now entering sign for Sunset Bird. Excitement built within you. You were really here. You were doing this. Your driver turned off on a street. You realized that their map program was taking you the way home that Ma preferred. You usually would have used the other side of the street to pass by the beach. In no time at all, the car had gone through the whole of town and pulled in front of your mom's condo. The car slowed to a stop and parked. With the buzz of the highway gone, you realized that you could hear the familiar sounds of waves. The air smelled like salt, and a rush of childhood memories flooded back. You started to gather your things and humming to yourself once more about how happy your moms would be to see you. After that, you'd notify everyone else that you made the trip safely. You pulled over your suitcase from the other seat and yanked at your bag from down near your feet. Tap, tap. You startled at the sudden sound of tapping on the glass, caused you to pause. Did you really hear what you thought you did? You weren't entirely sure because you heard something else. The window on the opposite side of the car rolling down confused you until you put it together that despite the driver's silence, you weren't actually alone in the car. The driver must have pressed the button. Someone had to be there. You turned your head to face the now open window. There he was, leaning his arms across the window, your fiancé, Cove Holden. He beamed at you with one of his precious open smiles. Hey, Mandy. Welcome home. I was wondering how long I'd have to stand out here for you to make it. It's been a while, you know. Cove! The sound of his name, he burst out laughing and grinned winningly. He then gripped the top of the car door and pushed half of his torso through the opening. That was enough to make the driver break their silence with a sharp hey. Cove did not seem to notice and continued climbing in through the window. He pushed one hand down into the middle seat to prop his dangling body up. He used his other hand to caress your cheek and leaned in as close as he could. I missed you. You flicked him on the nose, no. He enthusiastically reciprocated. The arm holding him wobbled at your touch, and you could feel him smile under your smooch. He was clearly struggling to avoid falling down onto the cushion. He pulled back just a little to get a better view of his face. I missed you too. Cove's smile turned awkward as his arm started to bend lower, causing his body to slide downwards with it. He turned his head to the driver. Sorry, I'm always causing trouble in this neighborhood. Cove shifted around some more and squirmed back the way he came. After he had successfully pushed the window and landed on the pavement with a thump, you opened your car door. You threaded your arms through the various straps of your bags and climbed out. Cove took a few long strides around the back of the car, quickly met you on your side. Cove stood in front of you, and it struck you that the two of you were back in Sunset Bird, reunited once again on this street. Gave him a friendly punch. What's up, Buster? And you were still, it's got to be dramatic. We're going to hold the bags. We're going to whack them with our bags. It was a little difficult to launch yourself at Cove with all your luggage in tow, but you pushed through. Cove let out a little oof as he caught you, and a bag swung around to clobber him in the back. Listen, I said so. Both of you had to maneuver around the assorted cases weighing you down. Cove snorted as your baggage once again hit his side. When you were situated, he leaned back on the balls of his heels and fully lifted you off the ground. His goofy grin let you know just how much he was enjoying your enthusiastic embrace. He didn't have a problem holding you up. His especially large height allowed him to lift you well off the ground. With one last swing, he put you back down. You really were ecstatic to be around him again, and absolutely thrilled that it was here in this town where you were together. Even if it had only been a short time since you had seen him off, you'd still miss Cove greatly. Somehow felt a lot longer. Given your different schedules and travel availabilities, it worked out better for Cove to head out to Sunset Bird first. He only arrived the evening before, however, secured the hotel room. Till now, you never had to deal with that inconvenience, being in a tourist-heavy area. It was a fight to get a place to stay close by during the heat of the summer vacation season. Living without him at your place was strange. Cove was basically a part of you at this point. You were glad to feel whole again. Oh. You idly shifted your luggage, and then it struck you that you were short one. You got out in such a hurry that it was left behind. You reached back in the car to pull it out. Cove stood aside as you made a dash for the door. You shouldered the small bag and felt relief that you would be able to brush your teeth tonight, because you could never buy a toothbrush. Couldn't buy one. Absolutely not. Got everything this time? You stood up straight, everything truly gathered up and out of the car. You gave the backseat one last glance and then nodded. Cove shut the car door after you had moved out of the way. The two of you stepped off the street to give the driver some room. Cove waved. Sorry again. The driver said nothing and drove off. With the road clear, you let your gaze drift across the neighborhood that you had known forever. It was such a small place to spend so many days. You were flooded with memories of going up and down this street during every stage of your life. Being a little kid, following your big sister to the playground, becoming a teen, staying out later, and growing into an adult who left their parents' house behind to be independent. You could feel the summer sun on your skin from all the times you headed out to the beach. You saw the same surroundings that you as a young adult did when leaving home. It was hard to quantify the amount of history you had here, and now you were back. Despite taking in the neighborhood again, you never lost awareness of Cove's presence. From the corner of your eye, seeing him there was a very familiar sight as well. So many of your memories included him. Your mind drifted from the neighborhood itself to the person who used to live there. You couldn't help feel the feeling of nostalgia. You still remembered his face, his voice, the scar on his arm from days long gone. He had changed so much since you had first met him, yet even with those changes, he was always recognizable. He was familiar like the sky was, in the way you knew the sea. Every day they may appear different, but they're still an inextricable part of life. It was the world, with the help from Mr. Holden and his ill-thought $20 bill, that brought you together to begin with, but the two of you had chosen each other. You had never let your interactions fade. You had decided to nurture your relationship into what it was. You would continue to keep Cove close into all the rest of your adult years. It was the love of your life, your wonderful fiancé. The day when you would be officially married couldn't come soon enough. He was the one you wanted to keep spending year after year with, as you'd done for years before this. It would be impossible to imagine life without him. Cove noticed you staring at him after a while, and smiled with his eyebrows rising in curiosity. He was very transparent in his question if there was something you wanted to say. You shook your head and returned to him a soft expression. You'd let yourself get carried away in a tide of memories, but now it was time to focus on the present. Ready to go see my mom's? Cove nodded and then pointed at all your luggage bundled around your legs. Can I help with any of that? Please. Brother, you can help with all of it. Yeah, thank you. You gratefully passed him a bag. It was a lot easier to balance everything with that out of the way. He used both hands to take hold of the one piece of luggage and stood tall, pleased to be able to provide his assistance. The bag situation resolved, the two of you strolled over to the Leigh residence's door. You started to pat your pockets instinctively, only to realize that you no longer carried a key to the house. Your eyes scanned the entryway, a little lost, only to spy the doorbell. The thought of having to ring it felt super weird. As you pressed the inconveniently placed button on the side wall, You remembered that no matter how much this place would always be a home to you, it wasn't where you lived. Being back here was like putting on a uniform after you quit the store where it came from. It had remained the same, but your circumstances had changed. Cove shifted on his feet awkwardly, obviously also thrown about you being stuck out here keyless. They really just didn't let them keep their key. I guess you probably don't carry them. See, I'm a chronic. I just keep, if I put a key on my key ring and I didn't have to give it back, it just stays there. I would probably still have it. You heard muffled voices and shuffling from inside. Your heartbeat sped up in anticipation. The door swung open and there was your mom's smiling face. She immediately brightened at seeing you standing there. Well, well, well. Mom twisted her head back and gave a shout down the hall. Lonnie, guess who's here? There were more distinct noises. No doubt Ma getting up from wherever she was to come see. Her high-spirited words rang out clearly. I hope it's one of my children. Mom snickered, still holding the door only half open to hide you for a little longer. Cove flushed as if suddenly realizing that he was going to be present for your mom's enthusiastic welcoming of you. You smiled to reassure him that he wasn't intruding. Ma finally reached the door and peered over Mom's shoulder. It is! Hello, Mandy! She gave you a once-over, patting the tops of your shoulders and moving down the sides of your arms before she nodded in satisfaction that you were in one piece. This is a wonderful surprise. Ma inclined her head to Cove next, not leaving him out either. Hello, sweetie. You count as one of my kids at this point anyways. I have double the surprise today. Oh, yeah? You snorted at your mom's greetings. They never changed. Cove bashfully waved at them. He hadn't relaxed fully, but he had settled down at their welcome. Well, don't just stand out there. Come on in. Your mom moved aside and held the door open for you, gesturing for you to enter. You stepped into the living room. It was comfortable and cool. Cove was a half a step behind you, his eyes on a new painting your mom's must have added since the last time you were here. Things were mostly the same, but there were more decorations since you had seen the house last. Mom may have gotten the urge for some interior designing again. It struck you how odd it was to be the guest only observing their choices for the living space here rather than a full-time occupant. Ma came up in front of you, excitement in her eyes. I'm so glad you're here. You know, your mom and I would have been happy to pick you up, but you're self-sufficient and responsible. That's okay. What matters is that you arrive safely. Mom appeared at her side with a nod. Welcome back, kiddos. You appreciated that your parents respected you as an adult, even if Mom still called you kiddo. That's your mom. That's what they do. You figured long ago that you'd always be her kiddo, no matter how grown you became. It's a part of the whole parent-child deal with her. You hugged them. You took another step forward and pulled Mom and Ma into a great big hug, squeezing them tight. Their arms wrapped around you in return. You could feel their love for you in their embrace. I wanted to surprise you. That was what we said, so. Aw, well, you succeeded. Your timing was lovely. It's always nice when I'm able to come by. Your mom's giggled, pleased. I hope you've both been doing well. Is everything set up for your anniversary dinner? We're happy to help if there's something we can do. We've been plenty fine. It's been a little quiet, but that's not a bad thing. Mom placed her arm around Ma's shoulder and gave her a side hug. Don't worry about the party. We're just planning to eat at the Cypress. Nothing fancy. Which is kind of a funny thing to say about a pretty fancy country club. The biggest issue has just been making sure everyone can make it for the day. Speaking of which, Liz will be arriving tonight. We're planning on picking her up later. I guess Liz isn't as grown up as Mandy. Mom snickered at her own joke, and Ma lightly elbowed her with a barely hidden grin. Shush. As I was saying, we can drop you off wherever you're staying if you don't mind waiting for that. I'm sorry there's not space for you in the house. It's gotten crowded in these old rooms since you and Liz moved out. I don't know where all this stuff keeps coming from. Sure you don't, Pamela. It's okay. Cove already has a hotel room I'm going to be staying in anyway. Cove sent you some pictures of the place when he arrived. Stylish and roomy, it seemed very nice. It was a room with a single king bed. He claimed that the bed was comfortable, so you had high hopes about that. Though mostly you were looking forward to having him next to you as you slept once again. Your mom smiled, relieved. Kira's already here, isn't she? She directed her question at Cove. He bobbed his head a bit to go along with his reply. Yeah, I heard she made it. She's gonna be staying with Dad while she's in town. Have you gone over and said hello yet? Cove chuckled self-consciously, and this time he shook his head. He raised an eyebrow since you had figured he would have taken the chance while waiting for you. Not yet. I should go do that now. I just wanted Mandy to be there too. He caught your eye with an adoring smile. Mom laughed at that, no doubt thinking Cove was sweet but ridiculous. It's nice to know your priorities. Yeah. Cove awkwardly rubbed his arm and shifted on his feet, looking all too much like he did as a kid. Mandy, do you want to go over to my house now? That's a good idea. We won't be leaving until late evening. You heard, Ma. Let's go see your parents. Cove perked back up, excited once more. We'll keep an eye on your things while you're out. There's no reason to be carrying all that around. You set down your bags in the living room, tucked into a corner where they wouldn't be in the way. Cove helped. Your moms waved the two of you off as you walked back to the entranceway. Thanks, see you soon. You waved back and opened the front door for Cove. With that, you were on your way to see Cove's family next. Listen, as far as like having to go home and see your family and stuff, very convenient for them. Just drift between the two sides of the street, no problem. This trip put a special little pep in Cove's step as you crossed the street to his dad's house together. Your spirits were equally high. Doing this, you felt like a teen again. You had known Cove's parents for a long time now. When it came to what you called his dad, we'll go with Cliff. Though it was awkward on your tongue at first, it rolled off comfortably now. You appreciated how much he saw you as an adult and friend, not just the kid from across the street. For his mom, we were still on first name, not Mom 3. First name basis with Kira. She always preferred that, even when you were still just a kid. Honestly, you couldn't imagine calling her anything else. Cove hopped up to the front door and didn't bother knocking. He twisted the knob and swung it open. Oops. Oh, no, it didn't skip. Okay. With a grin, Cove gave you a gratified thumbs up. You shook your head in disapproval, but you both knew that you hypocritically supported his behavior. Your dad is lucky we aren't criminals. He brushed your comment aside and went right into his old home. Cliff was there, standing in his kitchen and babysitting a pan on the stove. His head turned at the sound of footsteps and brightened instantly at the sight of you both. Cove matched his enthusiasm instantly. If it was anyone else, you would have thought he was lighting up with a childlike joy over seeing his dad again. Since you knew what Cove was actually like as a kid, you were aware this level of happiness with Cliff was definitely not equivalent to any childhood feelings of his. Dad. Cove. Cliff gracelessly pushed what he was cooking to a different burner and flipped off the heat. He rushed over to you both. Cove flew forward and met him halfway in a hug. Cove squished his eyes shut and held his dad in a tight hug. Cliff soothingly rubbed his son's back. The more of an adult Cove became, the more he turned into a big daddy's boy, it seemed. Missed you too. It was sweet, and teasing aside, it was wonderful to see them at this place in their relationship after years of struggling to connect. When the hug broke, Cliff hooked an arm around his son's neck, letting out a deep laugh. I still can't believe you outgrew me. I really thought I had that on him after he graduated from high school, but then he had to keep going. Chuckling, he shook his fist in mock anger. Cove ducked his head and laughed in kind. Sorry, Dad. Cove's cheeks turned pink and he averted his eyes. He was becoming bashful, so you knew he had more he wanted to say. Cove softly added, but I was raised really well. His dad's expression instantly crumbled with emotion. He sniffled. Cove put an arm around him too and tugged him into a side hug. You observed their little reunion fondly, happy to let them enjoy their moment. They were a perfect pair of sentimentality. Cliff eventually turned his attention to you. Hi, Mandy. So great to see you. He pulled away from Cove and approached you with a little wave. He was back to his cheery self. Cliff, it's so nice to see you. I feel like we should be on hugging terms at this point. It's been apparently a decade or more at this point. You went to him with your arms extended and a silent, is this okay question in your eyes. Cliff pulled you into a big hug without a second thought. There was a quiet sniffle. I miss seeing your face around here. Thank you. Cliff cleared his throat, pulling attention to himself. He crossed his arms. But before we get too carried away, it's not a real reunion yet. Kira's still in the guest suite. I'll go get her. He eagerly bolted down the hallway, and you could hear every step he took. Ended with a distinct knock. Kira, they're here. It was only seconds before there was the sound of a door being yanked open. The pounding of feet hitting the wood floor grew even louder this time. My baby! Next to you, Cove let out a nervous laugh. His parents entered the living room, and Kira stretched out her arms wide when she spotted you both. Cove went to her easily. Obviously, we went in for a hug. She pulled you tightly into her arms with Cove. You were squished, but felt every bit of love Kira had in her heart for you both. Cove wrapped his free arm around her too. He rested his head on top of hers, let out a happy sigh. After a moment, Kira let go and pulled back to get a better look at your faces. She surveyed every inch of them and appeared satisfied. You're both looking well. That's wonderful. Just what I like to see. Thanks, and hi, Mom. You look great too, Kira. One day soon I'll let you in on my secrets. Kira winked, and you had zero doubts that she held precious knowledge to looking your best. She was stunning every time you saw her. I'd be honored. So what's new? How have you both been? Kira gave a nod for Cliff to go first. Cheerfully, he waved a hand. Oh, same old, same old. Still got the shop, still got my friends and family, of course, and still the most exciting thing around here is seeing who'll rent out that one free condo. Incredible. I always knew you were such a snore. They snickered, and you couldn't help but peek at Cove. He rolled his eyes dramatically, drawing out a few giggles from you, but the whole time there was still a happy smile fixed on his face. For me, things have been good. I've gotten a lot of interesting assignments lately. Oh, I recently went to Seattle, and Kira twirled the strand of her hair shyly, and her mouth curved into a grin whenever she was thinking about it and made her happy. Things have still been going well with that guy from work, but it's a little early to bring him all the way out to California to meet the family. Cove crossed his arms, and he and his dad nodded. It was clear she appreciated the acceptance from her two boys. I'm really happy for you. Thank you. You were honestly glad that things were going well for her. She was clearly grateful for your approval as well. So that's us. Do you two have any plans for your first day back? The only thing I have to do is pick up Liz later tonight before we head back to our hotel room. Great. He suddenly looked over his shoulder, his eyebrows pushed together. I'm glad you're here, but I just remembered that I was in the middle of cooking something. Only a small cackle escaped you while you fought off the giant grin taking over your face. Meanwhile, Cove erupted into laughter that had his dad shaking his head. That's fine, Dad. Go salvage what you can. I think it'd be nice to explore the old neighborhood for a while anyway, since we've got the time. Cove directed the last part to you as he spoke, hoping that you'd want to go with him. You nodded automatically. You were already looking forward to it. That's a perfect idea. I think so too. You should go enjoy the day. I'll hang back here so I won't be a third wheel. Someone's got to keep an eye on Cliff before he catches the whole kitchen on fire. Mom, you're not a third wheel. Cove stiffly stuck his arm against his side like a little child. A small smirk tugged at Kira's mouth. She winked. You know what I mean. Have a good walk. I'll see you both later. Cheerfully, Cliff waved before going back to his cooking. Cove smiled warmly. Okay, bye. Bye, we'll see you soon. Cove trailed behind as you walked into the welcoming summer sun. He stopped, closing his eyes to stretch his arms in the warm rays. Satisfied, Cove turned to you and carefully took your hand in his. The heat of that was better and more comforting than any ray of sunlight that could shine on you today. Stepping closer, you squeezed his hand. Your mouth curved into a playful smile. Let's get out of here. Let's go. Naturally, you found yourself heading down the road towards the beach. Your spirits rose even higher as you strolled across the sand, heading for the shopping district. Arriving, you wove past tourists who were taking in the sights for the very first time. Being a local was a badge of honor you wore proudly. You casually walked past the shops. Over the years, some had closed down, but many of the stalls were still exactly the same as they were when you were little. Cove snapped his head as far as it could go to the side, so dramatically you couldn't have missed it. Something clearly caught his eye, but you couldn't see it. There's a pretzel stand open today. Can we get one? When his gaze found you again, he wore the biggest smile. You chuckled. Yeah, we can. You fondly thought about retracting your previous thought. Cove was beaming now. You're gonna get the one that comes with a little frosting cup, aren't you? That's right. And after that, you both happily made your way over, being pulled in faster by the delicious aroma of the stall. With that, you changed course to the pretzel stand for a snack break. Cove was very pleased by the morsel he picked up, and that was good to see. The sun arched across the sky as you went up and down the road as a pair. By the time you returned to the beach, the day was beginning to fade into night. Cove kicked his shoes off, tossing them into the sand. He wanted to get his feet wet in the waves as fast as possible. You joined him. In seconds, you had your feet free and your shoes abandoned in the sand. You kept going until you were ankle deep in the water. Cove sighed contentedly. You followed his line of sight into the setting sun, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink. Really feels like summer now. You wore a bent smile when he turned to you. The light illuminated like a halo behind him. The sight took your breath away. In fact, it's hard to think of anything that feels more perfectly summer than moments exactly like this. Being here at the sunset and Sunset Bird with you. I'm so glad we were able to come visit. I do like our living situation now over just being neighbors, but still. You hummed in agreement. Your heart fluttered the moment you met Cove's eye. Your mouth lifted into a pleased smile. This is a wonderful day. You felt elated. You couldn't wait to pick up Liz and be surrounded by your family again. Cove murmured quietly, losing himself in his thoughts again. Shortly after, you saw his hand shoot down into the sand. He stood straight back up with a lopsided smile that got to work brushing the sand off his prize. You knew without a single word, Cove found a new shell for your collection. As you wandered down the beach, Cove followed at your side in comfortable silence. Your shadows stretched across the sand like they were leading the way. The only noise you could hear were the soft footfalls of your feet and the waves gently rocking you into the shore. The only noise you could hear were the soft footfalls of your feet and the waves gently rocking you into the shore. For a moment in time, it felt like there were only the two of you in your own little world. Eventually, the bubble popped when you realized that your phone was going off. It was Ma, hoping that you were going to be back soon. Curious, Cove's eyes slid down to your phone. You let your hand fall back to your side. You held the phone pressed against the palm of your hand. It's Ma. She wants to know when we'll be there. Cove scratched the back of his neck and shook his head. His mouth twitched like he had just had a funny thought. Dang parents, always trying to make us come home before it gets too dark. You laughed. No, there's no escape from curfew as long as we're in this neighborhood. It's like we warped back into being little kids the moment we set foot at the entrance sign. Cove's nose crinkled in fake disgust, and you both burst into a fit of giggles. Be nice not to have to worry about bills again. Sometimes. After one last glance, you put your phone away again. Cove gave a small shrug. Ready? Yep. Let's go. Together you left the beach, feeling the call of home pulling you forward. Both of you ran off towards your mom's house, leaving the waves behind but welcoming the beginning of summer. Cove and you ran up from the beach, sand flying from your steps. Cove made it to the road first, but you managed to catch up to him by the time you reached the house. It wasn't exactly a race, and yet it also wasn't not a competition. Both of you were laughing by the time you bumbled through the front door together. You inhaled deeply and shouted loud enough to be heard anywhere in the house. We're here! Your moms were seated in the living room. Their eyes sparkled as they locked on you and your light dusting of sand. Welcome home. Mom leaned forward, eyebrows raised at your jubilant entrance. Ma sighed wistfully. That brings back memories. Cove chuckled shyly as he scratched the back of his head. Hope we're not too late. Nope, you're just in time. Better start packing it up. Liz will be waiting. Ma nodded as she stood up from her seat. She lightly ran her fingers over her clothes to smooth out the wrinkles. Took you a second to remember where you had put your stuff. You needed to get it all in the car so you could get everything back to your hotel. Can I help? You shrugged and directed him to your bags. With Cove, your mom's, yourself on the job, it only took one trip to the car to get everything. It only took one trip in, too, for that matter. Cove firmly closed the trunk, and you thanked everyone for their assistance. Of course, kiddo. Come along, my family. Let's get in the car. She gave Cove a special look to make it clear that meant him. Cove climbed into the back seat with a decidedly touched expression on his face. You got in on the other side. When everyone was situated and buckled, the engine was started and Ma pulled out onto the street. You couldn't help but feel amused to be stuck in the backseat with Cove. Your mom's driving you around. It really was like you were little kids again. Cove caught you staring at him and gave you a bent smile. He was probably on the same wavelength as you from the sheer mischief in it. There was some light chatting on the drive. No one brought up anything too deep, and it mostly became swapping, joking stories. The entire trip was marked by a heavy sense of anticipation. Everyone was ecstatic to see Liz and hear what she had been up to. When you neared the airport, Mom pulled out her phone to call Liz. Ma followed the signs to the correct pickup area and asked you to shout if you saw your sister. Yeah, Liz, we're at Wing B. There's a blue sign that says North America. Tell her that we're right in front of the building with the blue windows. She says that she's outside, right by a yellow truck. I see at least 3 yellow trucks. I think they're doing work at the airport. The back and forth continued with Ma driving around in the wide circular airport road while Mom attempted to coordinate between her and Liz's location. Aha! You leaned forward, peering out the front of the car. A tall, poised silhouette pulled a pale purple roll-along suitcase behind her. It was definitely Liz. She waved to the car. Ma parked along the sidewalk next to her. Mom put her phone away with a cheer. Mission accomplished, team. Ma excitedly reached over to grasp Mom's raised hand, thrilled that both of her kids were back. That's right. Liz came closer and yanked open the back door beside her. She popped her head into the car, her smile ornery despite how tired she appeared. Must have been a long trip for her, yet her expression was that same familiar spark that you had grown up with. Hello, children, I'm back. Rude. So rude. You laughed. That's fine. Liz nodded at your chuckles, appreciative that you enjoyed her introduction. Reached over and hugged her. You quickly unbuckled and then launched yourself at your sister. She wrapped her arms around you and squeezed. Well, hi to you too, kiddo. Hello, sweetie. It's so nice you're here. Hi, Elizabeth. He jokingly huffed at her. We're not children. Whatever you say, baby boy. She turned her gaze back to Mom and Ma. You really know how to make someone feel appreciated. Her spirits were high. You could tell she was just as happy to be here as everyone was to see her. She left the door open, but ducked out to walk around to the back of the car. She opened the trunk and lifted her luggage in. I'm gonna move your junk, Mandy. I'll keep it in front of my bag so you can get it later. Ma's dropping you off first, right? Yes, but that's not junk. It's important. Liz slammed the trunk closed without responding. Liz swung around to the open door. You noticed that her hair had a few flyaways, no doubt from a long day of traveling. She leaned against the frame of the car, giving you and Kova a significant look. I'm not sitting in the middle. I already had 5 hours of that nightmare on a flight. There's no way I'm getting in between the two of you. I mean, really, who would ever want to be the person pulling Cove, Holden, and Manda Leigh apart? Cove puffed up indignantly, yet again, at her classic tease of your relationship. Liz continued along like she didn't notice. I don't care how you decide who's scooting. I figure you can fight it out somehow. Cove glanced over at you and shrugged. He unbuckled the seatbelt and moved to the middle. Thanks, Cove. No problem. I'm almost disappointed it was so easy. I meant it when I said we weren't children anymore. It's just the middle seat. Liz shrugged, not losing any of her smugness. Keep telling yourself that, and I'll keep taking the window seat. With the window seat open, Liz squished herself into the car and shut the door. When everyone was settled, Mom began to pull out. We're off. Liz crossed her legs, compacting herself slightly. She braced most of her weight on the door behind her instead of sitting up straight. It gave her a little more room. Hopefully we finished the journey. This car is almost as old as we are. It's still just as good as you are. That's so rude. All the complaining definitely means Liz is back. So complains Mandy. Mom turned up the radio as Ma merged onto the highway. The station was familiar, the normal soundtrack for when she had driven you and Liz around town. Liz bounced in her seat, enjoying the classic tune. The song would be old enough to vote at this point if it was a person. That was hard to believe. With Liz, the conversation livened up despite it getting later and later in the night. She told you all about her week and the travel preparations she made. By the time she'd made it to the actual tale of the travel itself, Liz started chuckling. On the plane, Liz had sat next to a couple of girls, talked a lot about how well they could read people. Liz recounted their conversation with her in hilarious detail. They had apparently tried to guess her occupation after only shaking her head. Neither of the girls could agree with one another, and Liz had refused to just tell them. However, the drive to your hotel was only so long. Eventually, your group arrived. You yawned and got out of the car when it stopped. Cove clambered out after you. Liz gave a loud sigh of relief at all the extra space she found herself with. You and Cove grabbed the luggage and then waved off your family after you said your goodbyes. After they left, you and Cove went to go find your room. You scanned the keycard to unlock your hotel room. It sounded out a soft beep as you turned the handle of the door. The door creaked open, then you craned your head in to take a look. The first thing you noticed was a large king-size bed in the middle of the room. It was a prim and modern-looking space. It seemed clean and smelled faintly like floral air freshener. A smile played on Cove's face as he watched you take in the space. Bed's nice, huh? Which one of us is gonna use it? You burst out laughing. That was a joke. Can we please share the bed? Yes. Thanks. I got a good hotel, didn't I? It's passable. Absolutely not. You picked out a nice one. Cove smiled like a big pleased puppy. You and Cove continued to chat as you settled in. You unpacked some of your stuff and checked out all the room's amenities. Cove pointed out the mini fridge and started puzzling over what food could be ordered to the room. However, the fact was, you both were exhausted. It didn't take too many yawns, for both of you changed in your pajamas and called it a day. You had to hunt along the wall to locate the light switch. When you finally found it, you flicked it off, the sense of triumph. You turned your head over to Cove, who stood behind you in his pajamas. He was cozy and comfortable, but the pieces didn't match. He never minded that. Who would? Who's gonna see you? There's an emergency. Who cares? We should get some sleep. Cove smiled, a soft expression that was adorable. Okay, let's go to sleep. Despite saying that it was bedtime, Cove took a step forward towards you. He wrapped his arms around your back and you leaned into his embrace. Then he lifted you off your feet. What? Still not putting you down, Cove promptly dropped himself backwards. Both of you crashed onto the tight tucked sheets of the hotel bed. He laughed the entire time. Cove bounced on the landing and absorbed most of the impact. You laid on his chest, feeling a little jostled. You're an absolute madman. That seems dramatic. You shook your head jokingly. His laughter turned into a snort. He smiled up at the ceiling, a thought clearly crystallizing. My dad used to do that kind of thing to me when I was little, sort of. Nostalgia was clear in his voice. The fond memory, and you felt something warm in your chest. You made a small noise of understanding that turned into a yawn. When Cove yawned in return, you pulled at the sheets until you were actually under the blankets. Listen, but what about vice versa? Why are doves called doves when they're actually just pigeons? What then? Anyway. Sweet dreams. You gave him a smooch. You shifted yourself closer so that you could lean in. You kissed Cove and you felt his lips perk into a smile before kissing you back, obviously enjoying his goodnight kiss. Cove wrapped his arm around you and snuggled next to you. You let out a contented breath. You reached out to hold Cove under one arm and then used your other hand to comb through his hair. The two of you relaxed into one another and you knew neither of you would want to be anywhere else. I can't believe we're really here. You and Liz and everyone else are going to be here in Sunset Bird again. I was staring at all the scenery going by while we were driving here and it honestly felt like we never left. He ran a hand down his face. I mean, in some ways it feels like it's been ages and everything's different. Some of that is definitely because I'm staying at a hotel instead of being in my room at Dad's, but yeah. It's so weird. Cove nodded. He understood completely. I'm looking. A yawn forced an interruption into the statement. Cove was undeterred. Looking forward to this. He tucked his head into your neck. You felt his lashes flutter closed against your skin. Same here. I'll see you tomorrow, Mandy. His words were a whisper you barely heard. Might not have even been that exactly. You might have just been guessing. Cove always had a habit of mumbling. It was okay either way, whether you heard it or only thought you heard it. The sentiment was true regardless. Cove would see you tomorrow when he opened his eyes and the sunlight returned to your hometown of Sunset Bird. You comfortably drifted off to sleep and eagerly awaited seeing Cove tomorrow as well. Your eyes gently opened to see a dim, unfamiliar ceiling. You recalled where you were, a hotel room. Yawning, your muscles felt relaxed and warm enough that sleep threatened to pull you under again. Morning. Cove's voice brought you back to consciousness. The heat made sense now. You knew the comfortable weight against you was your fiancé. His arm was draped around you, and his fingers were lightly drawing shapes on your pajamas. You twisted over to face him fully. Morning. Did you sleep well? I did. The expression on his face softened with a content sigh. You felt his index finger lightly trace out a shape of a heart. There's nothing but good dreams when you're around. You snuggled. Pushing into him, you squished your face into his chest. The air knocked from Cove's lungs came out in a light chuckle. Cove closed his eyes. His hand found the middle of your back again. He held it there, enjoying the closeness of the moment. Neither of you were making any moves to get up and actually start the day. It was sweet and comfortable to be wrapped up in Cove. You could indulge just a little while longer. Eventually, enough time flew by that there really weren't any minutes to spare. There were too many people waiting, so you both crawled out of the sheets together. Standing up, Cove took a few seconds to stretch. Glanced over at you with an animated expression. I'm really looking forward to your mom's anniversary dinner tonight. It's gonna be fun. I think so too. This whole trip is great, actually. Being here with everybody is like having another chance at being a kid. And do all the stuff we used to, and all the things we never did but wanted to. The world's our oyster. Jumping up on the bed, you stood in a power stance in the center. We run the course of our lives. We're in control of our destinies, exactly. Well, we better get back to it, huh? We got a pretty full schedule ahead of us for your mom's big day. You smirked. So much for being a kid, so many responsibilities. What did Tommy Pickles say?
I don't want my responsibility no more!
He was so right for that. I don't think seeing our friends really counts as responsibilities, Mandy. Fine, you got me there. After that, you and Cove moved around each other, busily getting dressed and ready for the day. Light laughter and chatter filled the air the entire time. Bags were packed and phones were sought after. You handed Cove's phone when he hadn't been able to find it. Thank you. He plucked the phone from your hand and slid it into his pocket. You struggled to keep your giggles in, and Cove raised a questioning brow. What is it? Watched you go past it like 5 times. Are you serious? Mm-hmm. Groaning, he resumed what he was doing before the phone crisis. When Cove's back was turned, you double-checked that you hadn't misplaced your phone either. You hadn't. There was nothing else stopping either of you now. Minutes, you were hopping into your ride and heading back to the neighborhood. It was another beautiful summer day in Sunset Bird. You couldn't resist rolling the window down so you could absorb it all during the drive. Cove sat across the seat from you, near the opposite window. His gaze was locked outside, catching all the old landmarks the vehicle was passing. Your spirits rose even higher the moment you made it home once more. Eager, you hopped out of the car and let yourself inside. Your moms knew you were going to be there that morning. But the second you made it past the threshold, an excited scream nearly scared you out of your shoes. Mandy, you're here, and guess what? I'm here too. While your heart rate settled, a broad grin quickly took over your whole face. Since your cousin moved out on her own, you noticed that she really found her own groove. She was still the same loving person she had always been on the inside, but she expressed herself in new ways. Leigh was strong, kind, and smart. For the past few years, she graduated college with a degree in history. The last you heard, she was pursuing her dreams, working towards getting into the music industry. Leigh! Excited, you shouted just as loud as she did. Leigh hugged you tightly, nearly knocking you off your feet. Leigh leaned to the side to glance past you and meet Cove's eye. The grin on her face widened while she waved. Hi, Cove. Hey, nice to see you, Leigh. I got in practically at dawn. It was a whole thing, but at least I made it here alive. Leigh exhaled and slumped her shoulders to emphasize how exhausting the ordeal was. Behind her, Liz made her way over. She crossed her arms at the scene. I'm here too, in case you were wondering. I'm always wondering if you're there somewhere. Liz's lip twitched before twisting into a smug smile. She brushed a stray hair out of her face. Make it sound like I'm always following you around. I have a life of my own, if you weren't aware. I know. When I'm home, I'm always keeping an eye out for my big sister, old habits. How sweet. I miss the days of checking to see if someone else made it to the TV first, too. You laughed. Of course that's what her mind would go to. Another friendly shout rang out in the living room. Was as cheery as it ever was from the many times you heard it over the years. Good morning, family. Your parents both came out from the side hall together. Morning. Now that everyone is here, I do have a little something to mention. Ma put her hand lovingly over her wife's. Mom leaned her head into Ma's with matching affection. We're all still having dinner together, but Pam here actually just made plans to take me out to brunch to celebrate our anniversary, just the two of us. Please, she hooked her arm around Ma's waist. Sorry to push you out, but I'm sure this group of mature grown-ups will be able to entertain themselves for an afternoon. We don't need to find a babysitter or anything, I would hope not. Oh no, what did I do? Totally. Yeah, have fun, moms. Don't worry about it. We can survive that easy. Enjoy your brunch. This works out, actually. An afternoon open means there's time to meet up with Terry and Randy. Hopefully they're free today. Your two school friends still lived around the area. They knew you were coming for your mom's party, but when or how you might arrange to see each other wasn't set in stone. Definitely, we should call them. I have some people I'd like to say hi to as well. Liz had her cell phone in her hand, ready to get her plans made before she was even done speaking. Arching an eyebrow, she then directed the next part at Leigh. Would you like to come along? We've missed out on a lot of cousin bonding time in the past. I'd love to. It'd be an honor to hang out with you, Liz. I hope you both have fun. Don't worry, fun is my specialty. Chuckling, Liz smirked. Try not to have all the fun. Don't get into too much trouble. You shook your head and Liz winked. She then glanced back at her phone and rapidly typed a new text. Excellent, so it's settled. She squeezed her wife's hand. Her gaze took in the whole room, ecstatic to have the house full again. Today's gonna be perfect. I think so too. I truly couldn't be happier with my wife, my children, and our whole beautiful family. It's already a wonderful anniversary. There were awes and sweet comments from the group gathered around the couple of the hour. Seeing how your moms were, you couldn't help but hope that when you got to be their age that you could be as proud of your life as them. After that, you enthusiastically began setting up plans to meet up with your friends. They were both able to come see you, having kept their schedules free for this, and you couldn't wait. Cove was also speedily sending text messages. Since you conveyed the plans to Terry and Randy, you imagined that he was letting his parents know about what he was going to be up to. The group continued to chat and catch up until it was time for your mom's brunch and your big meetup with your friends. Soon enough, everyone was out the door looking forward to their fun-filled afternoons, the dinner later that night. Once outside on the neighborhood street, you looked to Cove. He stood at your side with a bent smile. Terry and Randy were driving into town while you and Cove were traveling on foot to meet them at an easier-to-reach spot. Man, we really are kids in Sunset Burn again, having to rely on other people who actually have cars to really get anywhere. Now we're stuck walking to whatever is nearby. You laughed. Like the good old days. Cove took in the sunny sky stretching out above the two of you. He shoved his hands into his pockets. Yeah, and at least it's always been a nice walk. There's always been places to walk to. We could have grown up somewhere with even less around. Cove cracked a grin at that. Wasn't so bad having to rely on your own 2 feet again. Let's go. You bounced forward several steps and shot Cove a playful look over your shoulder. With that, the two of you began your trip down the old road. It was a casual stroll into town, and before you knew it, you were at one of the large parking lots in Sunset Bird. It was the one that used to have the little crepe stall. Remembering the delicious smell, you got lost in thought. The store did well enough that it moved into a full-size building a couple of years ago. You'd seen pictures. It was very cute. The parking lot was now just, well, an empty parking lot that cars could theoretically park in. Not too many took the offer. Cove pulled out his phone, texting Terry and Randy in a group chat to let them know that you'd made it. Someone must have answered already because Cove gave you a status update while still staring at the screen. Randy texted, "I can see you." Oh, The blare of a car horn cut you off. You and Cove both turned towards the source of the noise. One of the windows rolled down. "Hey, buddies!" Your friends had arrived, making a spectacle of it, as expected. Being the only car meant that they got the pick of the lot, so they pulled to a stop in front of you. The window closed back up, and instead the two front doors popped open. Terry and Miranda stepped out onto the pavement. "Hi, Cove. Hi, Mandy." With a cheery wave, Miranda skipped towards you. Terry, on the other hand, walked speedily over to Cove, squeezing him into a hug. A quiet laugh escaped Cove, along with the majority of the air in his lungs. He didn't fight the constriction, but instead gave Terry's back a pat with a large grin spreading across his face. When he let Cove go, Terry came right up to you. He held his fist up for you to bump it. You gotta do the turkey. I'm so sorry. You gotta do the turkey. Your shoulders gradually began to shake harder while your lips twisted teasingly. Confused, Terry's eyebrows pinched together like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Gobble gobble. You wiggled your fingers, thinking of them as long, colorful tail feathers. Terry snorted the moment the image clicked in his brain. Gobble gobble. It felt so nice to have your friend group reunited as adults. I'm so glad I created that moment for them. Terry is currently a full-time lifeguard down at the busier beach a town over. You're proud of him. He'd help out a lot of people in his line of work. Miranda took Cove's hand, one of yours in her other, her eyes alight as she gave you both a gentle squeeze. "I'm so happy to see you again." "Hey, Terry." "Hi, Miranda." He answered assuredly. It was clear he was equally glad to see them. The reunion was long awaited. For a while, Miranda had been working hard as an assistant at a school while continuing her own education. She also kept busy running a small online shop selling crafted knickknacks she made. "It's good to see you too." You were thrilled to have this impromptu afternoon together. It had been way too long since the four of you had last got together like this. Miranda released your hand. Giggling, she eyed you both carefully. "So how have you been?" "Things have been nice." "It's fantastic." "Yeah, I'm really glad for you." You stood more confidently and straightened your back. That made her giggle again. "You're sparkling." "What about you?" "I'm super." Terry sidled up next to Miranda, put his arms around her shoulder. Sighing dreamily, Randy chuckled up at her boyfriend. Yeah, things have been unbelievable." He pressed his cheek against Miranda's and she let out a light squeak. The sight put an amused grin on your face. Your friends made a wonderful couple. They knew each other well and cared about each other so much. It was no shock at all when you heard the news that they started dating. It really wasn't, because I was like, listen. Couple vibes, absolutely. I got it. I saw it. The corner of your mouth curled playfully while you took in the warm welcomes all around. At times, it was still kind of funny how your group of 4 friends evolved into 2 couples. Not that you were complaining about it, you thought it was an amazing thing. Cove then pulled his phone out and peeked at the screen. He repeated the motion every so often. You raised a curious eyebrow at his unusual behavior. Cove was too focused on whatever he was doing to even notice you noticing him, which was even stranger. Is there anything either of you want to do while we're here? Any place you want to see? I'd be up for a lot of things, but actually there is something that I want to do right here. Oh yeah, what's that? Terry poked at Cove's arm playfully. Miranda met your eye, silently asking if you had any idea what Cove was talking about. You shrugged. I just want to see my friends. Huh. Cove, you're already doing that. True, but I could be doing it even more. You, Terry, and Miranda all turned to Cove with identical, incredulous expressions. His stare moved to a point past you 3, and you heard the scrape of sand against gravel underfoot. Someone else stepped into the parking lot. Startled, you jumped at the call, of the warm voice shouting over. I was gonna say, it's Derek. Sup, guys and gals? Running a hand through his hair, the person who crossed the lot was unmistakably Derek Suarez. He was beaming the whole way. It's been too long, even though it hasn't actually been that long. But long enough. Wow, I'm so glad you're here. That's a relief. Chortling, you shook your head. Derek's eyes squished shut while he let out a hearty laugh. You're always welcome around us. I know. Thanks. I missed you. He spoke to you gently. You were thrilled just being there, reunited with him. Derek was a good friend of yours, and he had been for a long time. Hey. He waved over at Terry and Miranda pleasantly. Over the years, they had all met several times in passing, simply through being friends with the same people. Sup, big man? Hi, it's great you could come. Cove put himself next to Derek. Happy, he clapped a hand on his friend's shoulder. Thanks for coming. Of course, thanks for inviting me. Sheepishly, Cove looked back at you and the others. That's when it clicked in your mind. It wasn't his parents that he was texting earlier. It was Derek the entire time. Derek is in town for a few months to help my dad and his dad with some work. Yep, I'm working on my own business thing too, but I'm still involved with running the scuba shop when it's called for. Nifty. Humming, Derek elbowed Cove. But hey, we don't have to stand around here for my sake. What's the plan? Let's hit the town. Eager to get going, everyone piled into Terry's car. The rest of the afternoon was spent visiting spots all over Sunset Bird, laughing and reminiscing the whole way. Once it started to get late, Terry brought you and Cove back to the neighborhood. You didn't have to walk there after all. You didn't get out until promises were made to see each other again before your trip ended. Side by side, you and Cove stood in the street and waved at the car as it drove away. Terry tapped on the horn 2 honks while Miranda stuck her hand out the window to wave back. You caught Derek in the back window, giving you both a wide grin. Sighing as soon as the car turned down another street, they were finally out of sight. Well, that was one party. Time for another. Ready to go see your moms? Always. Let's keep the celebration going. You shimmied a bit right there in the street for added emphasis. He looked at you amusedly and rolled his eyes. Come on, let's go. Spirits high, you and Cove crossed the distance to your house. It was almost time for the anniversary dinner. You barely stepped over the threshold of the condo before Ma descended, eagerly welcoming you both. The usual greetings were followed by questions on everyone's well-being, after which the conversation moved on to excited chatter about tonight's dinner plans. Cove excused himself to the restroom to freshen up before being on the move again. But when he returned, you were shocked to see he had changed entirely. Where did that come from? Packed it with me so I could get dressed before dinner without having to go back to the hotel. Didn't you? Maybe you have stuff still here at your mom's place? Aw, no, Cove, I didn't do that. But your mom's party is at the country club. That's also where Liz took golf lessons. Not everyone is there in their Sunday best. Be different if we were going to one of the club's parties, but we're only going for a regular meal. Cove was as befuddled by your explanation as you were with his actions. He threw his arms up, desperate for understanding. How can you not dress nicely for a country club? I don't think the Cypress is as special as you decided it is. You saw Ma, she wasn't in formal clothes, and she's one of the guests of honor. His frown wobbled, his cheeks became far pinker. He looked down at his own self regrettably as he pulled the cuff ends of his shirt. He seemed more like a scolded child than a grown man dressed for the latest charity gala. I thought she was gonna get changed while you and me were. Well, it's okay, you look very nice. That earned you a sheepish smile. That earned you a sheepish smile, though he still clearly wished his look hadn't garnered any extra attention. Cove's eyes stole a glance at the hall as if he was calculating if he'd have time for another quick change. Fortunately for him, it was not meant to be. The time to head out came far quicker than you had expected. Cliff and Kira swung by the condo to make sure everything was in order. And for your second surprise that night, Cliff was also in formal clothes. Cove's face excitedly whipped towards yours. At the same time, Cliff went to Kira's. The two men pointed at one another. See? He knows. Exactly, sport. Kira was talking to me like I was crazy. The aforementioned Kira placed a hand delicately yet dramatically across her eyes. Clifford, our son only knows this because you are the one who raised him. Cliff chuckled, his arms moving to scratch at the back of his neck. Yeah, that's my boy. The ends of Cove's mouth gently bent up. He truly was his father's kid in more ways than he even realized. They may be the only ones in the group, potentially, the only guests at the entire club, all gussied up, but at least they could now take solace in one another. That looked to be good enough for them. All the members of your family headed out at the same time to the Cypress. It was to be a perfect reunion. An impeccably smart host greeted you on arrival, smoothly leading the way to the set of the tables reserved for your group. Once you'd all settled in, chosen drinks were poured into delicate glasses. The food would be coming out later, letting you soak up the atmosphere for a little longer. Smiling, your parents faced the group of familiar faces, all gathered here together to share this special day with them. Mom reached over and took Ma's hand, clasping it between both of hers. Thanks for being here tonight, gang. Marrying this lady right here is the best thing I've ever done. There's no one else I'd want to celebrate that with. Yes, we're so lucky. Not only do we have each other, but we've got such a large and loving family through all of you. Around you, you heard people saying, "Aw," and chuckling appreciatively at the comment. Leigh had clasped her hands together tightly in front of her, her eyes shining. Your eyes met Liz's misty ones. The affection she had for her mom's carried over to you, too. You returned your attention towards the happy couple just as they leaned in to kiss, smiling all the while. The table responded with cheers and clapping, shouts of happy anniversary and other congratulations continuing even after they'd broken apart. Mom beamed as she watched Ma giggle dreamily. Then her eyes met yours across the table. And of course, it won't be too much longer before we're celebrating another marriage, She leaned eagerly over the table towards you and Cove. Your fiancé blushed, but he still grinned proudly at the suggestion. Yeah, when is that happening? With how long you've known each other, it's a miracle you've had the willpower to hold off on officially tying the knot already. Liz smirked. You'd known that face since childhood. It meant trouble. Yeah, wait much longer and I'll start taking bets for real when it'll happen. I missed my chance with the proposal. The group burst into laughter. Cove, who only stopped pouting long enough to take an angry chug of his drink, did not join in. You laughed along with the others. The teasing was meant well. You didn't mind some good old-fashioned ribbing every once in a while. The waiters reappeared, delivering delicious plates of food, and the dinner began in earnest. Both conversation and laughter continued to flow freely as the night went on, with the two families relishing the opportunity to be together once more. Eventually, after your hunger and thirst had been fully satisfied, the plates were cleared and the event began to draw to a close. Cliff and Kira exchanged goodbyes with your family before heading out together. Cove gave his goodbyes to his parents while hanging back until your moms were ready to head off. You were getting a lift back with your moms. It was already late, so you'd discussed the possibility of going straight to the hotel rather than going back to the condo, but Cove had asked if they'd mind taking him back to the neighborhood. You'd wanted to visit it a little longer. Your moms had happily agreed. Liz and Leigh were feeling tired, so your moms swung by their hotels during the trip home, while you and Cove made the full journey with them. Riding in the backseat of your mom's car with Cove felt more than a little nostalgic. As your eyes drifted over to him, his head resting on the window, it was hard to believe how much time had passed. Mom stretched out as she got out of the car, smiling over her shoulder as she headed towards the house. Time to put my feet up. You two joining us? Cove shook his head. No thanks, it's your anniversary. You don't have to entertain me. I'll take a walk. Is it ever any trouble to have you over, Cove? You let him do as he pleases, Lonnie. But you better not stay out too much later or there'll be trouble. Ma chuckled as Mom waggled a finger, her expression exaggeratedly severe as she reprised a role that, in truth, she'd never really played. Neither of your parents had been particularly harsh as you'd grown up. Ma joined in the act. Don't go too wild just because there's no school tomorrow. Laughing, they made their way inside, leaving you standing out in the dark street with Cove. You didn't even need to ask him why. You already had the answer for this. He wasn't ready for the day to end. Without a word, Cove began to stroll down the road. You walked alongside him. You'd known your destination long before you arrived on the dark and utterly deserted beach. There were no lights down here, nothing but the moon and the stars for illumination. The only sounds were the gentle waves rolling in and out, the soft sound of footprints left in the sand. In other words, it was perfect. Cove stepped out into the waves without a word. He looked up at the sky with a smile, then tucked his head down and began to pull his fancy shirt off. He tugged it over his head and lobbed it backwards, further up the beach and out of the reach of the waves. I didn't know I'd be getting a show. Cove froze, his arm still raised from where he'd thrown his shirt. Slowly, came back to life, stiffly putting his arm back down. Your commentary had made him self-conscious. Laughing, you clapped your hands in delight at his awkwardness. Cove slipped his dress pants off and tossed them back in roughly the same direction as his shirt. He was down to just his polka dot boxer briefs. Sometimes you were really struck by the ways in which he was braver than his younger self. This was definitely one of those times. He never ever would have done this when you were both living on this street, but you also know he still wouldn't do it with anyone other than someone he'd spent all those years with. I feel like since we went to a nice dinner, I apparently wouldn't have worn listen, I'm on team it's a country club. Why wouldn't you wear a nice outfit? So we're gonna say this despite them. Cove waded further into the water until it came up to his chest. You unfastened your clothes and left them behind you just as Cove had done moments before. You didn't even bother to see where they'd fallen before following him deeper into the sea. Cove grinned as you approached. I'm gonna be in so much trouble with my moms when we get back. Yeah? Oh well. Think fast. He splashed water at you as soon as the words left his lips, giving you no time to prepare. The splash had caught you full on, leaving you spluttered and drenched. You splashed him back. Seeing what you were doing, Cove put his hands up for protection. It was no use. The water washed over him, leaving his hair soaked through. Cove sighed, then looked at you mournfully. The sudden shift in his mood alarmed you. Those worries disappeared as soon as he opened his mouth. We're still not merfolk. The world is cruel. You snickered. After a moment, Cove's mock sadness broke, and he joined in. The two of you wound up drifting further down along the shoreline, chatting and enjoying the chance to be back on the beach that had provided the backdrop for so much of your childhood. Eventually, a silhouette of structure appeared up ahead. As you drew closer, you realized it was the old playground. Cove spotted it too and hurried towards it, dragging himself out of the water, heading into the park. Wet sand coated his feet and lower legs with every step, laying thickly enough that it began to resemble a bizarre pair of boots. As you followed him, you wondered how many visitors this little park got these days. There were officially no children living in that neighborhood now. Cove gazed at his surroundings in wide-eyed awe. He didn't care at all that he was soaking wet and dressed in only his underwear. Crouching, he gently pushed one of the child-sized swing seats, marveling at it all. I can't believe this is how tiny everything is. We were seriously small enough to use these? He shook his head, unable to fathom just how little you'd both been when you first met, then walked over to the monkey bars. Once these had been a challenge for you, now they were a little more than waist height next to Cove. Cove turned his back to the bars and hopped up onto them with ease, sitting on them comfortably. You leaned against the bars. It was strange seeing adult Cove juxtaposed with the baby playground. This place had been something so exciting to Cove back when he first arrived. Apparently it was to this day. Cove smiled eagerly as he approached, kicking his feet in the air happily, briefly forgetting the low vantage point until the tip of his toe scraped along the ground. Owies. He continued to swing his feet, but with a little more care. You thought it was adorable. In the moment you were home. Just so happened to be the place you'd grown up, but really anywhere you could be with Cove was that for you. He had held a special place in your heart for so long, and so much of your life had been shared. You'd grown up on the same street, which had given you some common ground, but it went far beyond that. You both had chosen from a young age to share your life with each other. You wouldn't have it any other way. Here we are again. Here we are. The mood had shifted now. The funny, impulsive night beach trip, with the spike of adrenaline that came from you playing in the water under the moonlight, settled into something quieter and more nostalgic. Cove leaned back, tilting his head towards the sky to admire the stars above. Too bad I wasn't able to bring my surfboard along for this. Cove shrugged dramatically, trying to lift his mood a little. The dinner was really nice. It was great to do all this. The smile he had when he spoke those words fell as quickly as it had appeared. It went by so fast. We all came out here for the party and it's over. Liz, Lee, our parents, we'll all be going back to our things now. But what else can you do except say it's okay? I guess it's part of growing up. This place and these people, they're our foundation. Shaped who we are now. Like making castles out of sand, I owe a lot to Sunset Bird. His eyes crinkled fondly. Cove's voice was gentle when he spoke again. We had a good childhood, I think. We're really lucky. Yeah, you're right. He shook his head, sighing heavily. All right. His smile took on an uncharacteristically harsh twist. He had a feeling where this was going. We better get home before your dumb parents don't know anything get mad. He had to laugh at that half-hearted impression of the sour kid you'd once encountered in this very park. He chuckled along with you for a moment before tapering off. I hope we don't get grounded. The jokes kept coming. It was very amusing to imagine that not only could your mom somehow ground you, the fully grown and independent adult, but that their powers extended over Cove as well. As much as you were enjoying being back here, Cove was right. You had to accept that you needed to go now. It was late and your moms were still expecting to see you before you got a ride back to the hotel. Cove hopped down from the bars, landing easily on the ground only a short distance below. Before you could return, you had some clothes to retrieve from the beach. You retrod the same path, following the footprints down the shore he'd left in the sand only a little while earlier. Once you and Cove had scrounged up your abandoned clothes, you started to walk up the old path home, side by side. Droplets of water slipped down your skin and fell into the road as you made your way back to your mom's house. As you and Cove were still soaked and sandy from your earlier adventure, it's likely that you were leaving quite a trail in your wake. But you'd seen Cove's bedroom growing up. It was only natural for him. The air was slightly humid, already pleasantly dense with moisture that felt like a hug as it closed around you. Any damp footsteps that were left behind take longer to dry in this weather. The signs of your adventure might even be visible when the sun came up the next day. You'd hope so. You quite liked the idea of you and Cove leaving your mark on your hometown again, even if only for a little while. Despite being soaked through and mostly undressed, the balmy summer night prevented you from feeling any chill. You were entirely comfortable. In truth, you felt warm inside and out. The day had been so lovely, spending time with friends and family, and your eyes drifted to Cove. Cove Holden, your fiancé, just seeing him brought a smile to your face. I love you. Cove turned towards you, his eyes wide and adoring. He bit his lip as he smiled shyly. You could tell your words had touched him. Feel the same way. Exactly. Listen. You're not gonna say it back? Say it back. Say it back. He held your gaze a moment longer, looking straight at you as he spoke again. Damn, okay, no, he raised it. He did. I'll love you forever. Gave him a hug. Cove squeaked, startled by the sudden embrace, but quickly warmed to it and responded by wrapping his arms around you in turn. You were full of joy. All other concerns and the day-to-day stresses of normal life were squeezed out by it. All you could think in that moment was how your life was wonderful. Every second and every day needed to end sometime. That time had nearly come for tonight. You had to get at least some rest and bring it all to a close. And so the two of you went inside to say goodnight to your moms, as well as clean yourself up as best you could. Your moms, both in pajamas, ready for their own sleep, hooted with laughter as you came inside, disheveled and damp. Their teasing continued until the car came to get you to the hotel. Cove stayed silent as he put his casual clothes on again, placing the formal ones back in the bag you brought them in. You'd given Mom and Ma plenty of material for a mock scolding, and you got a playful lecture about not getting into water without bothering to change first. You just grinned at your partner in crime, feeling like a naughty kid again. It had been worth it. By the time you and Cove finally dragged yourself to the hotel room for the night, the sky had been dark for some time, and the lonely hotel hallways were quiet. The late hour made you feel a sense of fulfillment. You really were making the most of your trip. It was such an odd thought that this was almost over. You had settled into this new routine naturally. All the familiar streets and faces made everything easy to get used to. The two of you drowsily shuffled past an ice machine and into your room. Cove set his phone on the bedside table and you followed suit. You both started settling in for the night. The hotel room was a welcome sight after your long day. You noticed Cove rubbed the back of his neck and yawned. His voice was quiet and distant. I hope the pet sitter is doing good. The wish wasn't exactly directed to you. It was just a sleepy thought that Cove had unleashed upon the world at large. But you still agreed. I hope so too. Cove still kept fish after all these years, delightful, colorful things, and huge aquariums. He spent a lot of time when he wanted to relax just watching them swim. You also had adopted a pet who you loved dearly. Your home was a lovely place full of critters that both of you cared for. That was why, with both of you gone, it had been important to find a decent pet sitter. Cove's anxiety about leaving them hadn't subsided. Over the vacation, you had caught him a few times texting the pet sitter about his fish. It'll be okay. Cove turned his head to you, the nervousness still coming off despite his exhaustion. Know what you mean, but you chose that person for a reason. You trust them. But they're all fine. They just miss you. Cove smiled, appreciative of your comfort. You nodded in satisfaction. Mission accomplished. Cove yawned widely. He seemed confused at the magnitude of it. He groggily blinked at you. I think it's time for bed. He squinted at your wrist as if looking at a watch. Yeah, bedtime o'clock. The two of you got changed and brushed your teeth. In no time at all, both of you were cozy and ready to sleep. After that, you flopped onto your side of the shared bed. Cove headed over to his side and you felt the mattress dip under his weight. You tucked yourself under the covers and Cove snuggled in closer to the middle. You turned on your side to face him, scooted slightly closer. Your noses almost touched, and Cove watched you with a soft expression on his face. Cove gently spoke, his words like a lullaby. Good night, Mandy. Night. Cove's eyes fluttered shut. He let out a contented sigh. There was a warmth from Cove's body next to you. He was right there. Listen, I feel like he would jump out of his damn skin. He doesn't seem particularly comfortable with that. Your eyes fell closed sometime after. You were not sure exactly when, only the fact that they were now too heavy to open. You felt a mixture of bitter and sweet emotions. You were happy to be here, but sad it was ending. There was a relief that you would soon be in your own home again, but also wondering when you could return here. There were many more feelings swirling around in your head that hadn't even crystallized into thoughts yet. Paradoxically, you felt nice, but also confused, but then also nice from the confusion. In the back of your mind, you realized that you really must be tired. Unsurprisingly, your exhaustion did not give you too much time to muse on your emotions, and what felt like seconds you were already dreaming. The dreams dancing around your head became fragmented and faded until you couldn't remember a thing about them at all. You're growing more aware of the real world. Ugh. Always groggy. Didn't matter how much you wanted to get up, your body had other plans. Yawning, your eyelids kept drooping and getting dangerously close to sticking shut. You sat up, fully with a big yawn, stretching your back, and then your arms, lastly your neck before accepting the day. Blanket fell to the side while you swung your legs over the side of the bed. Part of it almost got caught on your foot, but you kicked it away. Cove slipped out of bed on the opposite side. Today would be your last day in Sunset Bird. The only thing you had planned was some family time in the old neighborhood. You figured you'd see where the day took you from there. Yawning again, you glanced over at your clothes. There was just one more day to live out of your bag. Ooh, should we make him flustered? Hey Cove, is there anything you'd like to see me in today? No, you look nice in whatever you wear. You always do. Okay. Alright, fair. You knew from the tone of his voice that Cove was sincere, and his praise warmed your chest. Alright, let's get things going. Our families are waiting. Nodding, you and Cove swiftly finished getting ready in the small hotel room. Soon as you had your stuff together and were ready to go, you were off. During the ride there, you and Cove decided to visit his dad's house first this time. When you got dropped off, Cove eagerly hopped out into the street with his eyes locked on his father's condo. Your gaze fell on your fiancé. He stood in the middle of the street where you grew up together, while the summer sun made him shine. Though he was the brightest light in your eyes no matter what. A playful grin spread across your face. It was a beautiful day and a beautiful boy. Oh no, I did this before. Cove strode up to his old front door, casually flung it open without bothering to knock once again. You followed at his side as he poked his head in. You closed the door behind you both. Hello. You found Cliff and Kira in the kitchen getting breakfast ready. Kira was cutting up an apple while Cliff was watching a frying pan sizzle. Cove's parents waved from across the room, not straying far from their tasks. Good morning, you two. Yeah, morning and hello to you. I hope you slept well. Thanks for swinging by. You're more than welcome to join us for breakfast here. If you haven't already eaten, of course. We haven't yet, though even if we had, there's always room for more. Kira chuckled. She put down the knife she had in her hand so that all her attention could be on her son. You're still my giant growing baby boy. Mom, please. Kira didn't pay Cove's whining any mind. Instead, she put a finger to her lip as she thought, her eyes on you and then glimpsing towards the window. I wonder, do you think your family's eaten yet, Mandy? Not sure. Cove and I came over here first. You flicked your eyes over to the clock on their oven. Given the time, your moms may have eaten, or they could be having a slower morning. It was a coin toss either way. Well, give them a call. They could come over. Cove nodded, a sage expression on his face. Making them breakfast is the least we could do after how much food I ate at their house growing up. True, bud. Very true. Alright. You took out your phone. Even though your moms both had cells for years, the house number was the one you had memorized as a kid, the first entry in your contact list. As the call connected, you tapped the speaker button. You figured it would be easier if everyone could hear what was going on. You heard a click and a familiar static. Hello, Mandy. It's nice to hear from you. Hey, Ma. Good morning. I'm across the street right now, and Cove's family wanted me to invite everyone to breakfast. Do you want to come over? That sounds delightful. Pamela and I can do that. Liz and Lee should be able to make it too. Would that be fine? Cliff took a step forward and spoke loudly so his voice would be picked up. It definitely would be. The more the merrier. We may have gotten together for dinner last night, but there's no law that we can't do it again for breakfast today. Enjoy the company while you can is what I think. Ma giggled and you could hear some rustling over the line. Thank you. I'll let them know and we'll be right over. Cliff gave a thumbs up. Cove shook his head with amusement. Dad just gave a thumbs up. I'm telling you since you can't see him over the phone. Kira snorted and Ma's laughter rang out, filling the kitchen. Cliff switched the thumbs up hand to instead scratching the back of his head. Well, it sounds like we'll see you soon. Goodbye for a little while. You could feel her smile from her voice. Bye, Ma. You ended the call with a satisfying tap of the red button. It's not satisfying. Hanging up is so much more satisfying. Cliff's eyes wandered around the space. Better get cooking.
Sounds good.
I can help. Me too. No way, you're guests. Kira and I have got this. She grinned. There was something playful in the twist of her lips.
Right.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Cliff, I have been in your spot before. There's no choice but to accept it. Cove sighed, but from the sparkle in his eyes you could see that he was entertained. Fine, we'll just go hang out over here, I guess. Good. Cove walked over to the living room and gestured at the couch. You both took a seat, getting a comfortable spot to wait for food and family. Cove tilted towards his parents with his chin, then shook his head with a gentle smile, silently asking if he could believe this. All you had was a silent shrug. Time passed, filled with light chatting. Cove kept a careful watch on his parents' culinary progress, and teasingly kept a running commentary. Oh, Dad added another pinch of salt. I wonder if that was a good idea. Cliff had to raise his voice to project over the living room. He sounded very amused. It's funny that you of all people are commenting on my salt usage. We were both born and raised in salt water. Besides, I'm sure you remember back when you were about 12 and tried to make... Cove flushed slightly, but his smile remained as bright as ever. Do you really want to start talking about cooking mistakes, Dad? Because I remember a lot of things too. Like, what about the chowder that was supposed to be a pie? Cove and his family were quite a show to listen to. You chimed in occasionally, but mostly you provided the laugh track. Eventually there was a rhythmic knock on the door. That's them. He said it loudly for his parents' benefit. You nodded and got up to greet your family. When you opened the door, surprisingly, there were no moms. Terry stood in front with Miranda at his side. Derek waved from behind them. Hey, buddies. We came to see you two before you left. Plan would have been to go over to Mandy's house next if you weren't here. Luckily, you two aren't hard to find. What he said. And hi. Cove burst into a happy laughter. His brows were high in surprise, not unlike how he looked after unwrapping a nice present. Wow, thanks for coming. Hello. Kira's voice carried through the house from the kitchen. Cliff likewise projected. Great, the whole gang will be here. You heard the sound of a cabinet open and shut. A pan clattered and a faucet turned on. Are we interrupting something? My parents, sister, and cousin are coming over for breakfast. They should be here in a few minutes. Yep, but my dad always makes a ton of food anyway. It's no problem for you guys to join. Cove waved off their concerns before pausing with a thoughtful hum. The only real problem is, do we have enough places for all these people to sit? He peered back into the house and started counting the dining room table, chairs, and bar stools. 5, 6. Cliff interrupted when Cove began trying to use his fingers to connect different chairs to different guests. Don't worry, some people can squish together on the sofas. It'll be fine. This is really going to be a party. Well, I'd be happy to accept the invitation. Yeah, you'd have to be crazy to skip out on this.
Thanks.
Thank you for making room. We're really glad that you came. Your 3 friends finally piled into the house. Before they had a chance to settle in, the doorbell rang. Only Miranda had sat down. Now that has to be them. People laughed as he walked back over to the door and opened it up. He was right this time. It was your parents, Liz, and Leigh, all crowded on the front steps. They squinted into the house and were surprised at just how many greetings were said. The sheer force of the chorus of hellos was impressive. How did they beat us here? And how early did Mandy call you? We're literally across the street. Terry snorted at your sister's confusion. He seemed quite pleased with himself. We were a surprise. We called ourselves.
Cool.
Very cool. Cliff smirked as he adjusted the settings on the stovetop. It's a little more crowded than expected, but we're making it work. Cove led the final group to complete the picture inside, and they took the chance to greet you along with everyone else. When the excited energy buzzing around the table started to calm, you had a second to truly appreciate this view. The most important people in your life all together again. Still felt too good to be true, to have everyone here. And then you noticed that Kira stood back up. She clapped her hands once in a satisfying smack. I hate to interrupt, but I thought you'd want to know that the food's done cooking. Cliff crossed the floor to place a pile of silverware on the table. Then he dropped stuff off on other surfaces around the rest of the living room. When he was done, he gestured towards the food.
Okay.
Plates are in the kitchen. Serve yourselves and sit wherever you'd like. The guests happily formed a line, and the meal was steadily passed around. Before long, each person claimed a seat in the Holden living room area. Some at the table, others on the kitchen island, and some situated at the couches. Conversations trickled across the various clusters of friends as everyone dug in. Cove finished his plate in record time with a pleased sigh, put his fork down and surveyed the room. This is really cool. Just how we're getting to do this kind of thing. I like this too, Cove. I hope we'll be able to make this happen again. Of course, there'll always be more reasons to get the gang back together in the future. Yes, the 2 of you might even dare to celebrate your yearly anniversary. Every year. The smirk on Liz's face grew only wider as your moms giggled at her teasing. Ma shook her head, chuckling softer now. Liz, shush. Honestly, we just might. You made a good point. It does come around every year. You should. Seriously, you deserve a big celebration for your magical day. These kids are right. You've got a lot of people who want to appreciate you. You've got to give them a chance. It's true. I know I have a lot to thank you for. There were more nods of agreement around the room, and your moms took each other's hands for support. Neither were expecting so much encouragement. We'll think about it. She'll think about it, and I'll tell Lonnie to stop thinking so hard if she doesn't agree. There you go. Pam. Good job, Mom. Now that that's settled, let us continue to enjoy this perfect gathering. Agreed. There was a playfulness in Kira's stare as she scanned the room. She slowly placed her index finger on her chin. Now that I think of it, there's something I haven't done in a while. Eyebrows were raised at Kira's incomplete thought. She was wordlessly urged to continue. Kira didn't hesitate. Look through all the photos of Cliff has here? Wouldn't that be fun for all of us? What? Mom, why would you say that? Practically all of those photos are of me. That's why. Embarrassing my baby boy is just one of the perks of being a mom. Much to Cove's dismay, his mom was thoroughly entertained at his outburst. She winked in your direction. Meanwhile, Cliff eagerly stood up with a wave of proud affection for his son and completely missed Kira's teasing intent. I think that's a great idea. Anyone else interested in the pictures? I am. Leigh shot her hand up before Cliff could even take a full step. Terry and Miranda snuck each other a glance before nodding with matching grins. That sounds swell. That'd be lovely, Cliff. Mom tried to hide her amusement behind her hand, but she couldn't stop the snicker that slipped out. Oh boy. Listen, I'm nosy. I probably would have seen them all before. We'll shrug nonchalantly. Mr. Holden gave you a thumbs up, noting your mild contribution. Cove buried his face in his hands and sighed slowly. His shoulders deflated in defeat. Fine, we can take a look. Everyone happy with picture time? Yay! Yes! They both excitedly raised a fist in victory. Smaller cheers worked their way around the room. Your friends and family were delighted with this turn of events. Cliff flipped open his faded album of physical pictures. He held it up to his face. The corners of his eyes crinkled, and though the book covered much of his face, you were certain he was smiling fondly. But he didn't keep it to himself long. Laying the family album on the dining table, you and the rest of the party gathered around to get a peek. The first page was Baby Cove in a cute little onesie. There were several coos and ahs from the group, and Cliff's eyes were shiny with tears as he sniffled. He's grown so much. Listen. Even as a baby, he looked unimpressed. Sighing loudly, Cove crossed his arms. His pout grew worse, and it only put a wider grin on your face. He was the perfect match for the younger self captured in ink on the page. My baby boy was a very quiet child. I probably had a lot on my mind. That's never changed. What was there to think about? Snack time versus nap time? Cove scowled. Meanwhile, you and Kira couldn't help but crack up into fits of laughter. After breakfast in the photo showcase, everyone decided to stick around. Hanging around Mr. Holden's house turned into taking a walk around the neighborhood. Then for lunch, he switched over to your mom's condo. It was a really good time, enjoying each other's company, but eventually the sun began to set. There was nothing else to delay your friends and family from going home. Inside your mom's house, the home you had been raised in, the group was taking their time saying their goodbyes. It was tough for you and your family and your friends. You knew what was weighing on the mood. It might be some time before you'd see each other again. It was a pleasure having you all here, and you're welcome to come around again anytime. Ma wrapped an arm around Mom with a light chuckle. Mom leaned her head gently into her wife, and they both beamed. Absolutely. I know we're all adults with our own hectic lives, but we appreciate the time taken to visit. Snorting, Liz crossed her arms. She leaned one hip out to the side, while her lips curled teasingly. You make it sound like this is such a struggle. Some of these people still live here. It was a vacation for everyone else. Even so, it was very thoughtful, and I hope everyone has a safe trip home. Kira clapped a hand on Cliff's shoulder. He was puzzled as she leaned in so he could hear her. That means you too. It's dangerous crossing the street. Remember to look both ways. Hey now. Yeah, good luck with all the important grown-up things I'm sure you'll have to do when you're all out of here. Definitely, I'll give updates next time something exciting happens, or something lame so I can vent about it. How nice. I'm glad Leigh won't be forgetting the little people. Never ever. I'll keep in touch too. You better. Well, me and Randy aren't going far, so we can keep an eye on the town for the rest of you. Nothing will get past us. Right, we'll make sure everything is okay. No need to worry at all.
Thanks.
That's kind of you. Miranda and Terry gave each other pleased smiles, already committing to their self-appointed task. Derek scratched the back of his head, wearing a pensive look. It's always sad when I have to leave this town. Happens too often, but at least there will be people looking out for Sunset Bird. That makes me feel better about it. After a pause, Mr. Holden gave the younger folks a thumbs up.
Great.
That's all great. You've got a lot to be proud of and a lot to be looking forward to. Well said, Cliff. I'm thankful that I've been privileged to witness the growth you've undergone over the years. You've each matured beautifully. Cove was touched by his parents' words and struggled to come up with something to follow. Yeah, it's been good seeing everyone. That'd be me. I never know what to say. No one had taken a step yet, and you couldn't put this off any longer. It was time to say goodbye. I'm so glad we got to do this. Me too. Today was even better than I imagined. I don't know what we're gonna do without the kids around. I know, they keep us young. We're not that old. Some of us still got it. She winked at Cliff teasingly, and he shook his head. Both your moms laughed at that. You caught several more cracks of smiles among your friends. Afterwards, there was more sniffling and hugs, a lot of hugs. Then people started trailing out into the street, seeing others off. Your friends and family got into their cars and left the neighborhood. By the time things had fully settled, you realized that the sun had set. Earlier, you and Cove decided on having a car pick you both up. Neither of you wanted to bother your parents after such a long day. It'd be a little while longer before it would be there, though. It was the right choice, as both sets of parents shot you weary looks. The four seemed ready to call it a night. It didn't take either you or Cove very long to assure them that it was okay to head home and go to bed. With one more round of good nights and goodbyes, your families returned to the condos. Then the only people left on the street were you and Cove. Cove closed his eyes, humming happily while he waited for it to pass. He stared up at the sky. Cove's hands were in his pockets, and his shoulders were relaxed when he caught your attention with the tilt of his head. Can you guess what I'm thinking? Well, at the moment, you were in the neighborhood you grew up in together with some time to spare. You rolled your shoulders back and pretended to crack a few of your knuckles. An amused look fidgeted on Cove's face while he observed you silently. Could you perhaps be thinking that the fireflies are out now? Right. Do you want to go up to the Poppy Hill before we leave? Always. There was an eager bounce in your steps as you and Cove crossed over towards the hill behind your mom's house. Side by side, you stared out at the view in awe. As you imagined, the hill was dotted with the glowing firefly light. It perfectly reflected the memories of childhood held closely in your mind. Cove sighed contentedly, seeing them across the hill, weaving in around the blades of grass and the stars above. Eventually, Cove moved his attention back to you again. There was a dazzling brightness there in his expression that quickly morphed into something more mischievous. Want to catch one? He asked, raising a curious eyebrow, but then didn't wait for you to respond. Cove bolted off after the first firefly that happened to dart past his nose. Oh, it's on. Kicking up a bit of dirt and leaves, you bolted in the opposite direction after a few fireflies that captured your attention. The first one that flitted into your range, you dove for it. Did you get one? It escaped between your fingers. That didn't dim a second of your fun. You shook your head, trying to find your next target. Next one, I can feel it. Unless you're feeling my future victory. Out of the corner of your eye, you watched Cove get spun nearly around, following one that was staying just out of reach. Chuckling, you crouched down low, searching the air. The pursuit for fireflies continued until a handful had been caught. Cove crossed over to you with a bright grin that could rival every twinkling bug and star around you. Cupped between both hands, Cove carefully held the firefly. The corners of his mouth twisted before a few giggles escaped him. You knew that, feeling well, the way the firefly would buzz around, tickling the palms of your hands. Cove's eyelids fluttered open, meeting yours. He watched you with a complicated mix of emotions, heavy with the weight of 15 years of history, of memories. It's really a relief that I got to see the fireflies. This trip wouldn't have felt complete without it. Yeah, I think you're right. You spotted another firefly lowering to your eye level before looping up to the top of Cove's head, landed right on his hair, and you smirked. What? You have a very tiny firefly hat. I do? Before you could answer, the firefly took off and disappeared into the night. You gave it a tiny wave goodbye. Well, that didn't last very long. That's too bad. I'll remember them as my tiny hat forever. Me too. Taking a deep breath, Cove held your eye. He appeared to be conflicted about what he wanted to say next, and you waited for him to make his choice. So strange not to live here anymore. Most of my life, neither of us were ever really away from Sunset Bird. Well, unless one of us went on a trip somewhere. Or when both our families took trips together, remember that? He chuckled, losing himself in fond reminiscing. Couldn't help but match his grin. I like that road trip a lot. Though I don't think we all could squish into the RV again. We're way too big. Laughing, Cove shook his head. His brow creased the longer he sat with the thoughts spinning in his brain. Those visits back then with my mom, I remember what a big deal they felt like then. To be away from here without anyone else coming for a whole few weeks. Oh, how little I knew. Okay, listen, nosiness takes over. Thrown a little off kilter, Cove hadn't been expecting that question at all. Both of his eyebrows raised, and a part of you wondered if you had somehow spoken gibberish instead. Honestly, I've been wondering about it since I was 13. Kira always kept details to herself, but you never said a word either. Mostly I'd just tell her about the times we hung out, and since you were there, obviously, when things happened, I didn't have to tell you too. That's true. But I would be really enthusiastic about it when I was telling her what happened, because, you know, you were an important friend to me. The time we spent together was important. So I definitely would have been embarrassed if my mom told you any of that. I really appreciate that she kept it to herself. Oh, I think that's nice, all of it. Thanks. Thank you for telling me. Finally, Cove parted his hands and released the firefly back into the hill. Blew up around his face before darting away into the sky, but your gaze was fixated on him. There was a touch of wistfulness in his features as he watched the bug disappear into the night. It wasn't until Cove turned his attention back to you that his demeanor warmed. Okay, I'm ready to go now. You nodded. A part of you didn't want to leave the Poppy Hill, but you knew it was time to go home. Trailing a few steps behind Cove, you looked back down the hill. You spotted your childhood home immediately. I'm grateful we could come home here and see how things are without us. It was nice. It really was. With Cove right there along with you, you made your way down the hill. With the same stars above trailing the way, your last night in Sunset Bird was closing out. You were lost deep within a dream, adrift in your current of unconscious mind. Cove was with you even then, his presence strong as your mind flitted from scene to scene, the logic of the conscious world melting around you. Something jolted you from your slumber, the visions you'd constructed slipping away even as you scrambled to catch them. It had been a good dream. You opened your eyes to an unlit, unfamiliar ceiling. The darkness permeated the room so thoroughly that you were sure it was still the middle of the night. As your eyes adjusted to what little light there was to catch onto, a smiling face cozied itself right above you. There he was.
Mandy!
Good morning, Mandy. It is not morning. The grin was bright enough to make it seem like maybe the sun had risen after all. Please stop being a morning person. Good morning. Just a nice flat good morning. You echoed his words, assuming he'd checked the facts in spite of the very night-like situation surrounding you. His expression softened at your voice, the tender affection in his gaze obvious despite the dim space. Listen, this one. It was too early for this, but then he let Cove take your not-so-subtle hint and try again after you'd gotten a decent night's rest. But you were without luck, as Cove made no attempts to leave you be. I'm guessing you woke me up for some reason. Are you ever going to let me know? Well, this is our last day here. Everyone might still be asleep, but if we get up now, we can at least see the neighborhood. Do you want to? Of course.
All right.
Great. Then he held out one of those hands to help you get up too. He took it. Cove's grip was strong as his fingers closed around yours. He pulled, tugging you up with ease. Before you could head out, you and Cove both needed to get dressed. You did so quietly. The strangeness of the hour meant that your body seemed less coordinated than usual. Each article of clothing a new puzzle, but you managed it. The two of you were eventually ready to head out into the wide world. Dawn still hadn't broken when you left the hotel, yet it was easy enough to get a ride down into Sunset Bird. The journey was peaceful. You might have expected sleep to attempt to claim you once again, with the sky still lit so dark. But Cove's excited energy was infectious. Morning was finally starting to come over Sunset Bird as you arrived, almost like the sun itself wanted to be there to welcome you. Cove turned towards you, his eyes sparkling with anticipation. One more summer beach trip? You laughed, nodding to reassure him, as if there was any alternative now that you were here and he was looking at you so eagerly. Yeah, one more. You could have taken your time getting there, dawdling under the morning sun, or you could have taken the short walk at a regular pace. and both of those would have been just right for some other occasion, but this time, without either of you saying a word, you and Cove set off sprinting. The two of you tore gleefully down the street towards the beach, as excited and as ungainly as the kids you had once been. You were laughing with joy and the absurdity of it all, being here at the break of dawn with the boy you'd once discovered on the nearby hill who never completely grew up. As it was still early, you did your best to keep the noise down. To the side, you saw Cove covering his mouth to stifle his own giggles, similarly aware of the people sleeping in the condos around you. You thought of what the mean old not-grandparents would have said if they could see you now. All you could do was continue running and stumbling down towards the beach, away from the residences and their sleeping occupants. It was only a few minutes before you arrived at the expansive ocean shore. Cove kicked off his shoes, strode right into the water, not stopping until his feet were entirely submerged. The waves tickled his ankles. Got in the water. After slipping your shoes off, you let the sea flow over you. It was cool against your skin, but not as cold as when the wave pulled back and your wet feet were exposed to the air again. The two of you stood there, watching as the sun continued its ascent over the horizon. Silence fell between you finally. Dawn had fully broken. Even then, Cove spoke in a whisper. Can't believe it's over. It all went by way too fast. A ghost of a smile crept over Cove's face, like the sun peeking out between clouds on an overcast day. Cove reached out and enveloped your hand in his, pressing your palms together tightly. The silence returned just for a second. I'm glad we came this morning, and that we came on this whole visit back. But more than anything, glad for ending up in this town in the first place, where I got to grow up with a really nice neighbor. I wouldn't have wanted any other life. I'm grateful for meeting you too. Cove looked over at you out of the corner of his eyes, not turning his face away from the sea. His expression was full of affection, from the gentle curve of his smile to his clear, contented brow. It was a stark contrast to the tears rolling down his cheeks. I love you. I love you. You counted yourself lucky. Even though you were leaving now, this place had gifted you with so much that you carry it with you wherever life might take you. The memories you'd make, the lesson you'd learn, the people you'd built relationships with. You'd keep those pieces of your life in Sunset Bird forever. You stood with Cove, silently watching, as bright rays swept away the last of the night's shadows until the day truly arrived. Your spirits were high as the sun rose even higher in the sky. Two of you had found yourselves meandering back to the neighborhood street on sandy feet, strolling down the path just as you'd done 1,000 times before. This was where it all started. You were compelled to look at the exact spot you'd first encountered Mr. Holden sitting dejected on the curb. He wasn't like that anymore. Still, you couldn't forget the day it began, just as you couldn't believe what an adventure it had led to. Things had never been the same since that moment. You couldn't be happier for it. Your mental lingering on that meeting had turned physical, causing you to stop in your tracks. It was only when you heard Cove's voice calling your name that you remembered where you were and realized what you'd done. And what a present it was. A shining sun, a clear blue sky, and Cove by your side. All the most natural things in the world. So what's the next step? You watched Cove expectantly, waiting for him to guide you forward from here. There was a crinkle around his eyes as he laughed. It's up to you now. You're giving me too much power. Aren't you worried about it going to my head? Cove smirked, shaking his head.
It's okay.
Don't worry about it. I'm listening, so go ahead. His eyes met yours, holding your gaze. I believe in you, Mandy. No matter how much time might pass, there were some things that you could count on to be constant. Cove, your family, his family, and all your other loved ones being there for you when you needed it was one of those things since the beginning and for always. Knowing they were there and you would never truly be alone made the future look all that much brighter. Listen, should we make him flustered? We've been nice to him this whole trip. You were teasing him with that call, of course, but so much reminiscing about growing up had made you yearn for him. After all, Sunset Bird had given you Cove. You wanted to enjoy both of them together. Toph sputtered out a laugh. Mandy. He covered his mouth with his hands, staring at you over them with wide eyes. So you don't want to? He slowly lowered his hands, his gaze flicking shyly between you and the ground. No, that'd be perfect. Your days growing up in Sunset Bird had been so wonderful. Even the prospect of leaving again made your chest ache, yet you weren't going to let that stop you. It would be hard, but you knew that it would still be there, waiting whenever you wanted to return. Facing Cove, who had been by your side through it all, you knew that one day you'd look back on these moments now just as fondly as you reminisced about your childhood growing up here. Each happy moment you experienced became only a memory of what used to be, but that was what life was, and it was okay. As it was from the beginning and continued that way for always, life took another step forward. Aww. That was cute. Alright, we did it, gang. We got a nice happily ever after. Aw. Alright. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me. I had fun. I hope you enjoyed. And I will see y'all next time with a new game. Bye, gang. Love y'all.